Welcome, everyone, to the Select Board meeting on Tuesday, July 23rd. Since Travis is joining us remotely, he asked me if I would chair the meeting tonight, because it's quite a bit easier to do it in person than it is to do it via Zoom. So in order to begin the meeting, I'll just do a quick roll call vote of the Select Board members, since some of us are remote. I forget who starts first. I'll just say Arnold here.
Modell, here.
Reed here.
Scott?
Triola here.
And Travis.
Actually, we should have been Snell and then Triola.
I don't know if
Travis, are
he's-
you there? I
is
see
he
your
here?
name.
He's muted.
Oh, he may not be.
Come on, Travis, you know we start promptly. Anyway, we'll come back, Travis, and you can say here. But in any case, there are enough of us to open the meeting. Let me just quickly review the agenda. We have community input at the beginning of the Select Board meetings. Then we have appointments and resignations. We're having a joint meeting with the school committee. Then we'll discuss the Hanscom resolution. We have a discussion with the Friends of Center Park. Public facilities, discussing project managers for the police station and the fire station, then the town administrator's report, warrants, liaison reports, and then we close with community input. And let me just remind everyone, in terms of community input, you can raise your hand or in some other way let me know that you would like to speak, and then when I recognize you, please give your name and your street address. And then we're limiting input to 2 minutes? Is that what we've been saying? Yeah. So in any case, let me know if you would like to make any comments during community input. Anyone in the audience? No? Okay. And is there anyone online that would like to offer a comment during community input? All right. Well, seeing none, I'm going to move ahead then to the first item on the agenda, which is some appointments and resignations.
I'm ready for that.
You ready to do that? That's
Yeah.
great.
I'd like to first acknowledge the retirement of Gretchen Kaywood with gratitude for her service, long years of service. And we're also notified of the resignation of Melissa Roman from the position of Social Services Manager for the COAHS. And I understand she is going to be very missed by her clients. So I want to recognize those two resignations. I'd like to move to appoint the Diamond, and I don't know how it's pronounced, but I'm pronouncing it Diamond today, Park Subcommittee Charter as presented. Did we?
Do we have a charter?
We
Yeah, it was
finally
in the
did,
packet,
because
yeah.
Oh, okay.
it got added in the second version
Okay.
2 of the packet.
Okay.
Do you want to have a
Should we
discussion?
just do it one by one? Yeah.
Well, in that one, I think that should be a,
Yeah. Would you like to?
I'll second the motion.
Thank
Okay.
you, David. It's open for discussion then about the Diamond Park Subcommittee charter. Anybody?
Who put it together?
Rec Commission did.
Okay. It sounded fine to me.
yeah, it sounded fine to me, too. It's basically a subcommittee of the Rec Commission. Oh, yeah, you put it up there, thank you.
Yeah.
That will report to them, and they will be meeting an open meeting, and it needs to have one member of the Rec Commission.
Great. Travis or Scott, do you have any comment? Hi, Travis.
No comments.
Welcome.
No comments from me.
No comments from me.
Okay. Well, hearing none, let's do a roll call vote on the motion to establish the subcommittee. Arnold, aye.
Modell, aye.
Reed, aye.
Snell, aye.
Triola, aye.
All right, it passes unanimously.
So I now move to appoint Laura Harrison, I'm going to do all these, I think, together. 847 North Road as a member of the Safety Committee, term to end June 30th, 2027. Move to appoint Adele Grady as the Planning Board representative to the Community Preservation Committee.
No,
term-
you skipped a
Over
couple.
Brian
There's
King
4 of
and
them.
Steve Huberman.
There's 4 appointments.
Mine has, or maybe you better read it then, David.
Okay. Oh, she's,
starting
yep.
there, yeah.
Okay, let's do
Sorry.
it over. I move to appoint Laura Harrison of 847 North Road as a member of the Safety Committee, term to end June 30, 2027. To appoint Brian King of 49 Concord Street as a member of the Safety Committee, term to end June 30, 2027. And Steve Huberman of 761 Concord Street as a member of the Ag Commission, term to end June 30, 2025. Further move to appoint Adelaide Grady as the Planning Board rep to the Community Preservation Committee, term to end June 30, 2025. To appoint Sarah Cassidy Smith as Planning Board rep to the Historical Commission, term to end June 30, 2025. Move to appoint Court Herschelman as the Planning Board rep to the Conservation Restriction Advisory Committee, term to end June 30, 2025. Is that the second to last?
And then Chris
Yes.
Gegas.
And finally, then, to appoint Chris Gegas and William Guild as the Planning Board representatives to the Minuteman Advisory Group on Interlocal Coordination, otherwise known as MAGIC, terms to end June 30, 2025.
Second.
Any discussion?
Wow. That's a lot of work. Usually you do that.
Yeah, the only discussion is that, and I don't remember, but I know I volunteered to be the Select Board member of the Safety Committee, and I don't know if we finalize that on the liaison representative chart.
So we have another, at least one or two volunteers that we didn't verify residency in time, but we know they're residents. So the safety committee looks like it'll be stood up and functional, if not then this month, early in August. And there's a lot of safety concerns, especially with the tragic accident at Concord Street. So it's a good time to get together and talk about safety, signage, and other issues in town.
So I guess the question is, did I get appointed or didn't I? And,
Well, liaisons.
no, this wasn't a
Oh, this is a
liaison. This
voting
was
member?
I would say you're not yet appointed, because I don't recall that we, let's see, Safety
shall we-
Committee,
It's down at the bottom.
Safety Committee, Reed, you're in there. Did we approve this chart?
Yes.
You did?
Then you
Okay,
are
so that
appointed.
I'm already appointed.
You're already appointed.
Okay, so I just wanted to be sure that I go get sworn in.
Okay.
Okay.
Barney, my apologies, my Zoom shut down and restarted, so if you didn't get my vote, I was just rebooting my.
We haven't
Zoom.
quite voted. We're doing all
Okay.
of the appointments from Laura Harrison down through Chris Gegas and William Guild.
And I heard all the appointments, I just lost connection for a couple of
Okay.
moments.
Oh,
so-
okay.
Okay.
We haven't yet voted, so
Okay, thank you.
any other comments from anyone?
All right.
Okay. All those in favor, we're going to do a roll call vote. Arnold, aye.
Modell, aye.
Reed, aye. Did we lose?
Travis?
He's not, oh yeah, there he is.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe he's having some
problems.
difficulty.
Move on.
Here he comes.
Raise your hand if it's aye, Travis.
We're doing a roll call vote on the appointments. You're up. Snell, aye. Is that what that means? Nod your head.
Nah, he can't hear us.
All right, Scott.
With us.
Triola, aye.
All right, thank you.
I'm sorry if you couldn't hear me. It's Snell, aye.
Yay,
Yeah, we-
all right, just get in under the wire. So just before we leave these, just as a housekeeping, you took over COA-HS, we haven't formalized that, right?
Correct.
Should we move to do that?
Yeah, although for the liaisons, it's not a,
Oh, it's a
you don't-
liaison? or-
yeah,
oh, that
it's
doesn't
not a,
matter.
Yeah,
but just,
yeah, the reason I was
Yeah, okay,
specifying is because
you're an
this was an
appointed
appointed member.
Okay,
Yeah,
great,
okay.
thank you.
And I didn't want to go and get sworn in if I wasn't appointed, that's all.
Yeah.
Right, go get sworn in.
Okey doke. So now we have come to the joint meeting with the school committee. Sharon, do you want to open your meeting?
Sure. Good afternoon, Sharon Witt, School Committee Chair. I call the July 23rd School Committee meeting to order at 7:09, please.
And do you want to do any kind of a roll call, or?
We can do a roll call. I know some members are not. We can go ahead and do the roll call with the members who are here. Scott Jamieson is not going to join us. So,
Viola, aye. Viola present.
Watterson present.
Witt present.
And you have,
That's it? That's all we
that's
have?
it.
Okay, thank you. Well, great, welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight. So we've got two topics, at least that we know of. And, you know, as we all probably recall, we were gonna discuss this a while back, and then we had to end the meeting.
Snafu.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it happens. So let's just take the first one, which is the Highland Building. And yeah, some of us were in a discussion last night when it came up, and there was some sentiment among folks that came to the Community Preservation Committee meeting that they really would like to see something, that building have a purpose. And so I think on the part of the select board, we were interested in having the conversation with you all. It's been a while, I think, since we've had a discussion with the school committee, and there's been quite I think it's a whole new committee at this point. So,
Well, at least the three we see are new.
yeah, it's
Four,
Scott's new, yeah.
Four are new, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, and I didn't want to, did I just see?
Ryan,
Moshe, yeah,
Larry,
and
Jim
just
are
mention
here.
that Jim is on, the superintendent, and then Mary is also on. Hi. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, actually, I think we're interested to see what your thoughts are in the building and what you're looking for from the school committee. I think that will help us in our responses to you. I mean, just from what I know, being a new member, has been a long conversation in the town of Carlisle, and it's complicated on many different levels. So I think if we have a clear understanding of what you're looking for, that will help guide our conversation on the Highland Building.
I would say that there may be this may be justified or not, but there seems to be some sentiment in town that every idea that's been floated in the past has been knocked down by the school committee, that they just didn't want this, they didn't want that. So I would say one of the things we would like to know for sure is, what is it you really don't, I mean, do you have a list of what you really don't want to have? Because we feel like, some people feel that a lot of ideas have been floated and the school committee has not been receptive to those ideas. So I think that's part of it. It's complicated because it's our building on your land, and people then don't know how to act. And so it would be nice if we went, in concert. So, and I'm just speaking for myself, not for the rest of the committee, but I would say, if you thought you had any kind of use for that building, I would personally love to just give it back to you and let you use it and decide on your own what you want to use it for, and then we could, I think it would make the conversation a lot easier. I think that would be one decision to make, is do you have any uses for it?
I'm going to defer to Jim for that, if I may. I think he has more of the historical information and conversations, and probably could speak to that. Jim, are you okay with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think, the Highlands, beautiful building, it's been there for quite some time. And I think I'm just gonna, from my recollection, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the only thing we were firmly kind of opposed to was the idea of residences. That just seemed like an awkward place to have residences right on the school campus. So that was, I think, the major idea. But at that meeting that no longer exists, right? John Ballantyne was doing a presentation on projections of enrollment for Carlisle. And probably the last 2 years, so I'll go back, the last 2 years, we've had some conversations at the school committee that even though our enrollment may be lower than it had been 8 or 10 years ago by a good number, the way the school operates has changed in that time, right? We have a lot more smaller group instruction or individual service providers providing services and supports to students. So, and with that taking place, we do feel a space crunch, right? Our class sizes may not be that large, right? But we're still in a space crunch in the building. So, and I think that was what John Ballantyne was saying. The projections are that enrollment numbers will be going up in the next 5, 10, 15 years. So that kind of spurred in my mind, well, maybe there is some opportunity for us to utilize the Highland building. Of course, I say that, but I'm very hesitant to say that because I also know the cost to bring the Highland building into a place where that space would be usable is significant. It's significant to the town. And then we were just having, as we have in the past We've had conversations about a hybrid use, whether maybe the school and the town could look at possibly using it, because we could have a use for maybe some administrative offices, right? That would open up some space in our school to have service providers provide services in those spaces and kind of address some of that space situation. But we know that it comes with a significant cost.
Yeah.
That's the real challenge.
You know, I'm trying to think about how close that building is and if there could be a bridge from a elevated part that's already elevated in the school to the,
That would be way more expensive.
no, not
You're
necessarily.
saying from the second floor go across?
Yeah, if it's not very far,
No,
you could do that.
it's far,
Is it?
it's far.
Okay, I couldn't remember
I think
what the
the-
distance was.
Yeah, right.
Okay, but that building, regardless of, for any use other than housing, would have to be elevated, but
Elevated.
Well, not necessarily. If you have administrative offices, it would
Yeah,
still-
because of,
in an elevator?
yeah.
for ADA, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
right.
But in any case, I guess my one comment is that I just feel very strongly we don't want to continue to have that building be unused.
Yeah.
It's structurally very sound. The exterior has been well cared for, and yes, the inside definitely needs renovation. And it'll be a cost regardless of when we or what we decide to do with it and when we decide to do it. But I would like to see it in use. So maybe the idea of either a hybrid or the town uses it for some period of time. You know, we have some agreement that, you know, for X years or until the school, you know, decides they need the space, that we would do something with it. And, you know, and we would have to build it into our capital plan in terms of financing, how we'd actually do the renovations. But that's my own feeling about it.
The only other thing we all took a tour of it this morning, and for some of us, it was our first time in the building.
We have to know that.
So it's still fairly fresh. We haven't had a chance to fully reconvene as a whole group. I think the only thing that stands from my personal perspective after seeing it this morning is a few things, actually. One, I think we really need to look at what the evolution of a school is, what the future holds. I think the second thing is that we obviously need certain administrative space potentially in the future, but to go through the cost of everything, I think we have to think bigger in terms of like what does like a classroom of the future look like. And when I say the future, I mean 3, 4, 5 years out. And again, these are just fresh thoughts off of my tour. I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee. I think the other piece is that from looking at the strategic plan and having a couple conversations with folks on the preservation committee, like this is a beautiful building, and so if you spent the money on restoring the exterior, love to figure out how we can keep that character, because there's not a lot of space in town that is there. I think the last piece from a use standpoint is, and again, this is more of a big thought and a utopia to some degree thought, but there's been a lot of conversation on vocational schooling. We don't have an option for students. It would be great to figure out if there's some kind of innovation space that we can use there to maybe have some space, and that could be multi-use for town and students. But again, we haven't had a chance to talk about that as a committee, so I don't want to go too deep into my brain ideas here. But I think the last thing is that because it is on school property, even if it is a mixed town use, we just have to really be cautious from a safety standpoint. And whoever is going in and out of that building, that it is on school property, and that we're mindful of that first and foremost.
One other thing I want to say about that building is it has no parking for all intents and purposes. And so it's really hard for some entities outside of the school community to access it. So I think, honestly, it makes more sense in my
I
mind
think, right.
to give it back to you.
Yeah, I like that. I like that opening thought. You know, really, if you guys could come up with a use then that makes the most sense. So the conditions, the boundary conditions are that, yeah, as Jim said, you don't want people living there, so that's out. As Kate's saying, parking's a problem, so you might create a maker space or a meeting room space that can be used just like we use the auditorium, but people have to drive, to the school parking lot and park and walk, and that's okay. The question is whether that would be okay as a community center function, something you guys really need to debate, because it would be cars parking on your lot and walking around. But I think what I would encourage you to do, and I agree with Kate's approach, is, have meetings about how you'd use it. Clearly, if you could move some admin, you've lost the brick. The brick at one point was going to be an admin overflow. That went to Retcom, which I think was a good use. The admin spaces that you now use could be better used for these mini classrooms and all your educational needs. But then the leadership might be physically detached from the students. I know Jim, for example, loves to have kids come in and take candy from him and stuff. So, I mean, those are the kind of things you guys need to think about. I love your idea. I wouldn't say it's replacing VOTEC,
No.
but making a makerspace and increasing those kind of shop, related things would be great. And then finally, I would say, and this comes out of Jack Huntress's ideation, as a one thing that should be considered is it's space, it's not a building. We all love the Highland Building, but you know what? It's going to take a lot of money to bring it to code. As a space, it's really interesting. It's perfectly situated to make an amphitheater, an outdoor meeting, outdoor ed, all kinds of things that are right in the right spot. They're right in the right spot, and they're school things. So those are kind of some range of things, from negative space to, offices to classrooms to all that I think you guys should come back with some ideas. Then we can say, all right, given the building, Ryan, we must know ballpark, just to bring it to code, to make it, I don't know, a general use space. No, nothing special. An elevator and uses, do we have any kind of ballpark figure of cost?
I would just be guessing,
Couple mil?
at least, yeah.
No, so,
With the elevator, yeah.
yeah, so you start at negative 2 million just to kind of create the shell. But on the other hand, as we're learning from our public safety buildings, new construction's pretty pricey. So it's not, if you had an empty lot, you decided, let's say you wanted more classrooms, or we did want a community center, you design something different. But that's gonna be like a $5 million project. So if you couldn't, just speaking with my financial hat on, if it costs $3 million to both bring it up to code and make something useful, but not like specialty construction, general purpose, that's still cheaper. And it's there and it's pretty.
Well, and there's grants. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're getting into historical
Right.
preservation,
Right.
and
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
something, again, I talked to somebody
Yeah.
on the commission, but, again, I'm open to all.
No, but I mean,
ideas.
right.
This is just my gut
No, I
reaction.
agree.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
so I would agree
environmentally,
with
there's
what
all
you said.
the embodied carbon that you're not, putting
Oh,
back
yeah,
in the
it's definitely
atmosphere.
greener
and
to fix an old
It's
building.
greener, yeah.
And you put solar panel in it and all that stuff, I
Yeah.
guess. But, so, I mean, I think that would be a great, mission for you guys to take on over the course of the year, and then we could meet again. I mean, if you came up with ideas, I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of our goals, I think our stated goals, is to use the building, not to use our
That's the best thing.
buildings and spaces. We have some spaces that are going unused, and by the way, it costs us money. Every time there's a fire alarm or a humidity alarm over there, it costs $400 for the fire guys to come out there. So it's not, you can't just say, oh, well, it just sits there, No, it doesn't just sit there. It's to drain it.
I mean, I would love to finally see a solution. Going in today, it's probably been about 5 years since I was last in it, and I was surprised just in the 5 years, the deterioration
Yeah.
of the space.
Yeah.
I mean, and to Dave's point, maybe one of our school committee goals for this year can be
Have a
to
plan.
come
Yeah, I
up with
agree.
come up with a plan. My concern is just $3 million for roughly $3 million for a handful of offices. That's a
Well, that's right.
That's a big investment.
I need more than just offices, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you don't want to look at it that way, because when you have those offices gone that are currently there, now those are teaching spaces, tutoring spaces, small group spaces. You know, I mean, I was in an elementary school that was newly built, and they had classroom, small tutoring room between the two, you know, and those tutoring spaces were used constantly. So you could take some of your classrooms and reconfigure them so that you have, you know, they become a couple of tutoring spaces, because you now have a classroom downstairs where the admin is, you know, so I think,
completely hear you.
yeah.
Did I hear
Travis.
Scott or Travis wanting to make a comment?
I'd like to make a comment, if that's okay.
Sure.
You know, to build on what Kate and David had said, Kate, you know, I think our goal for the year is really to establish not necessarily how we use it per se of actual use, but really to figure out what direction we're headed with the Highland building. And obviously the school committee is really driving, or would have a major driving impact on that. But I think it's because putting, as David said, your financial hat on, we have a lot of things with the town that we're focused on at the moment. With the police station renovation, we're proposing and kind of moving down the path of a proposed fire station renovation. There are other things coming forward which will be related to the DPW. There are a lot of needs within the town. So I would just, you know, say and really advocate that you think of this in lots of different ways, not only reuse, but as David or maybe this originally who had said, you know, think about it as a space. And I know we value our historic preservation, and there may be a way to preserve it and move the building, or there are lots of alternatives. But I think that we really advocate spending some time thinking about what might be best, but in the context of thinking about the whole town and what we have needs for. We have a lot of needs in the town at the moment, and so, you know, if we can, you know, kind of drill down and figure out what makes the most sense, that would be helpful. So.
Scott wanted to.
Yeah, Scott, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I think Travis said it well, and the Highland building, that topic has been around for as long as I've been involved in town. I do think it's probably prudent to just say it needs to be related to the school, whatever use. So, you know, putting that sandbox in place and having the school committee think about that is important. And I also think really looking creatively about what grants are available. That may be a way to defer some costs and make it a cost-effective project that we can actually undertake, because practically, you know, we're all talking about what could we use this for. We know we have a lot of critical needs in town that need to be addressed and will require significant investment. So I think for the Highland building, a way to move that up in the queue would be to find some grants or some uses that would defer the cost so that it does become more cost effective.
Yeah. Point noted.
Sharon, did you want to comment?
I agree, you know, it's unfortunate that the space is not being utilized, and I don't think anyone wants that to be the story. I just think I was just doing some research, you know, just kind of being new to the conversation. It sounds very simple to just hand it back to the school, but I can't imagine, it's got to be more complicated than that. I'm thinking, I was reading through some of the articles in the Mosquito, and I think every idea possible has been discussed. And I'm thinking if it was that simple, if we would have moved forward on it a little, we would have some progress in place. So I think definitely I would ask for time for us to really come up with a plan and just discuss it, because I think every stone has been turned, and how do we make the Highland building viable and useful. I say just be patient with us, give it some time to discuss that, because as you know, this has been a long story, and I think some of the greatest minds in Carlisle have been part of the conversation, and we haven't had a solution yet. So I think that speaks to how complicated it is.
Right, but I would say that most of the ideas that I recall are non-school uses, they're community uses. And I think the conversation has, to Kate's point, conversation has mostly been driven on the town side, like what can we, the town, use the building for? And, you know, gym and fireman residence and blah, blah, blah. And the school committee, not this school committee, but prior school committees basically said, they said what Kate's saying to you, they said to us, like, you guys figure out a use. I don't recall a time where we gave a blank slate to the school committee and said, you know what? Just open your minds in the way that Julie's doing it, you know, or that Jack did, you know, just think of things that if you just have it, I use this term a lot, but they call it the Bill Gates principle. If you're unconstrained by finances, think about solutions that are unconstrained by finances. Because that will, if you were Bill Gates, what would you do? That'll point you in the right direction. Then you have to rein it in because you've got financial considerations. But think about what you would do either with the building or the space. What could you do? How would that help your mission? And come up with kind of a short list, and let's start that dialogue. I think I don't believe we've started this conversation from that perspective previously.
Yeah, I agree.
Despite all
I
these
agree.
articles and stuff. So, you know, it's a fresh start.
Okay, I would just, again, say, be patient with us.
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't think this is the decision.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
Neither is
I want to
Iowa.
make the right decision. We'll take it back. We can discuss it, and
Yeah.
I think maybe that's
Yeah.
I
the
think
path
that's,
forward for now.
that's fair, you know,
Yeah.
certainly, you know.
Good?
Yeah,
I
great.
think Ryan wanted to say something at a certain point.
I do,
Brian.
so,
Also.
Oh, and Scott,
I'll let Scott go then.
okay.
Scott,
Well, and a question that I know nobody wants to ask or answer is, but if there is no strong use for the Highland building, is the decision we just leave it there and maintain the facade? Do we take it down? I mean, at some point, if we can't find a use for it, or the use is too cost prohibitive, what do we do with the building? So we don't just keep kicking the can down the road and maybe even maintaining it in a way that's suboptimal. I mean, I think at some point we just need to decide what is going on with the Highland building. We either find a use, or if there's no use that's cost effective, what's the plan?
Yeah,
Give us a chance, and then we'll cross.
yeah.
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
we
we're
just
hoping
had-
this,
No, and there's
hoping the school
and
committee
there's no
will.
rush on this. This
Yeah.
has been batted around for
Decades,
decades.
decades.
Yes,
I mean,
indeed.
it's- But, I mean, I also want to just kind of remind us all that we had the Greeno barn, which has just now been successfully repurposed in somebody else's town. So, you know, for those people who want preservation or are afraid to lose like a big asset, I think that is something that really, that we should also consider, that maybe it doesn't have to be just, you know, knocked down. Maybe it can be repurposed somewhere else, which would be, you know,
Better
sort of
than
kind of
knocking
threading
it
the
down.
needle.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Ryan,
Yeah, just as someone new to the Highland building conversations, and someone who talks about the Highland building a lot to a lot of people, I would just like to just point out a couple things using our GIS, which I hope everyone uses.
Yes, I used it today.
Parking. So here is a school parking lot. Here is the Highland building.
Yeah.
This significant amount of very unused parking is closer to the Highland building than the school parking lot.
That's the church.
That's the church, right?
So
Yeah.
Julie, and I encourage you to talk to Julie about this, but talks about this a lot. So she does not believe that Carlisle has a parking problem. She just believes we don't use it well.
Right.
Well,
I would like you to consider.
yeah.
Good.
So when I do park right here, when there's kids here, I park a little farther away, but when it's right here and I walk up to the, to school building from here.
Is there a path, actually?
No.
Oh, see, that's what.
It's treacherous, but we'd have to add.
Okay, so we would have to add some sort of
Does
an
the church own
access.
the lot, or do we own the lot?
They do, but we have an agreement with them in exchange for services to use the parking lot, so it would have to be more formalized.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Secondly.
However, elderly people may not want that walk, you know, but they can't get from the other parking lot
Yeah,
either, so.
okay. Anyway, keep
I
going.
think we would have to create a pathway that
Yeah.
works, if we were to use that space. Secondly, we have more problems capital-wise than we can solve with the tax constraints as discussed by the select board and the finance committee. So that leads me to think multi-use. And then also when I'm thinking about the master plan, we also talk about multi-generational and places to gather.
Yes.
Right? Those are all Carlisle problems. So if the school committee could, let's say the school committee decides we would have some future use of this building. If it wasn't all of the building, it would be interesting to know how much. Because if the school, say, used the second floor and the first floor was available, you could have one of our biggest problems, which is senior drop-in services during the morning, right, from 9 to 3. And then our next biggest problem is places for youth to go, young adults from 3 to 9 with programming. And it matches nice because the brick building is right there as well, which is our recreation program. So it combines all those services. But it would take an incredible amount of talking about it. Is that acceptable to the school? Is it acceptable
Yeah.
to the town? That would mean a little bit less space for a community center, but it would also allow for school expansion and create some resiliency.
I was involved in a project like that in Andover, and if done collaboratively, there's some really cool things we can do from a multi-generational component, so.
If your community center if you're able to do that for less than some of the numbers being put out, but you also allowed for school expansion, you're taking a $10 million project down to a $4 or $5 million project, if done correctly. Solves a couple problems.
Okay.
Great. Any last comments, questions? Okay, well, great. Thank you all. Thanks
that
for,
was
yeah, we have
one
one
week.
other
We had
item.
another shared
Right.
services.
Not quite done.
Okay.
Yeah, so is anybody on the board, or Ryan, do you want to lead off on the shared services notion?
Yeah, so we're about to, me, but on behalf of the select board, is about to put in a grant for the study of shared services. And in discussions that the select board's had, many of the targets were internal shared services. So what can we continue to develop? What should we not be looking to develop? What might be able to share with other towns to help guide future financial constraint conversations? So it would be good if the select board and the school committee could discuss, absolutely not, we're not sharing this, or we're open to learning more about this, or maybe even ideas that the school committee has about shared services that the town hasn't seen. So the ones that are talked about a lot are IT, finance, maintenance, which is already well underway, and human resources as well. And then, who knows, recreational programming and other things, of course. Even many towns are looking at sharing things like mental health resources, and et cetera. So it would be great if the two important bodies here could talk about no-goes, definitely shoulds, would like to hear more, that type of thing.
Well, and maybe I could interject there a little bit. I know on the MFC, the Municipal Facilities Committee, you know, we have worked as kind of integral to this joint school-town partnership of maintenance and facilities. And I think, you know, we have kind of a trial period that we've done for, what, a year now, Ryan, or has it been a year and a half?
A little more than a year. Yep.
Yeah, that it seems to have worked reasonably well, and I think that, you know, we're just so fortunate to have, you know, a wonderful superintendent as well as a wonderful town administrator, and they've worked well in kind of trying to put this together. But I think we should, as two separate boards and really the kind of entities that have the real say in the structure of Carlisle, think about how we might want to formalize this, because I think it's more an efficiency, and operationally makes a lot of sense for facilities to, rather than have every building within town. I mean, I've seen this over my time in Carlisle, and we've talked about how we have all these silos, and you know, you have the library has its own facilities people, and now they've started to kind of work with the town and have been integrated, because rather than having a library that says, oh, well, we need to, you know, be in charge of our own facility, we really need to have this kind of collective process, I think. And we've put a program in place so that if you have a toilet or an issue, you know, it goes to the facility to, and I don't know exactly, but I think Steve Conierny deals with it and then subs it out. But they have a process in place, and that's been used for within the school as well as within the town, and now it's kind of a joint process. But I think it would be helpful thinking about it longer term and beyond the existing, you know, managers who are town employees who are here, but to think about it from a policy standpoint from these two boards, what we want to codify and to really put into place longer term. And I think the Municipal Facilities Committee's looked at it and thinks that there's a benefit to having a single kind of facilities department. And, you know, we've kind of been headed that way with this trial, and I think it would be helpful to talk about this and find out if we wanted to, you know, move this into something more formal. And I know that there are some concerns and issues, and we should just talk about those. But I think it would be helpful from a bigger picture, running the town and financial perspective. And Ryan, if there's anything else that you wanted to add, or anyone else wants to chime in.
Just, Travis, when you say more formal, what do you mean specifically by that?
Well, I think right now we just have a kind of understanding. We don't have essentially a facilities department, and maybe Ryan can talk to this a little bit more about on the day-to-day or the operational side, how that could work or does work and could continue to work or work better.
Yeah, I think as long as Jim and I are here and we understand the history of it and work very well with Jim, I have a ton of respect for Jim, you can manage it, but for your long term, you'd want to decide what your facilities department looks like. So some challenges I see, it's not really on the school side, it's more on the town side, but Stephen is managing 5 different budgets, so we're trying to consolidate those budgets. He has to get approval from 2, sometimes 3 different entities to spend money on facilities, right? It's not very efficient, so we're working on consolidating that. And then his HR approvals, I'm not sure on the school side, but he says to me he has 3 different IT systems for managing accruals, and then his pay comes from 2 different spots in the town budget, 2 different pay systems. So on the finance side, we have to have layers of accounts in order to make sure that everything is paid. So eventually, I think that needs to be consolidated, either on the school or.
But is there, I mean, are we our own worst enemy here? Can that just be done? Like, are there statutory reasons that you have to separate? Or could you create a building department? It's a service we provide the school, and that's the end of that.
The main thing is, school committee and select board both have financial authority, and then.
Right, but if we,
So
okay,
we
but
need an MOU.
well, we're one town, that's why I'm asking. I mean, when we go to CCHS, we have an MOU, we have an agreement, and they give us an assessment for a basket of services, and we pay the bill, and that's the end of that, right? So I'm wondering if we're overcomplicated, since we're one town, we're one legal entity, do we really need an MOU, or can we rejigger it so that the town provides a set of services to the school, and it costs X, and they get an allocation each year, like we do for the region? Like, don't make
One
it so
thought would
complicated.
be to take it out of, you know, and this, again, this is a political discussion because, you know, the school obviously has its jurisdiction and its authority, and so does the select board. And so one thought is that you could have a facility department and take the budget right now that is currently being allocated for maintenance from the schools and throw that into more of the town or the town budget, and so it comes out of the school. And then as part of the capital planning, we continue to do capital planning with the schools as it's been done. But I think, you know, Ryan might have some more thoughts specifically, or if anyone else wants to chime in. But I think that's one direction that this could head that might make more sense because we're sharing services.
I think you said what I said, just slightly differently, right?
Well, one issue I know from FinCom was trying to create for the town, a centralized maintenance budget.
Yes.
That would require taking the maintenance budgets from each department and then putting it in a central fund. And it's not as straightforward as it sounds. In some cases, I know those maintenance funds were used to kind of as a buffer when you had budget overruns. In other cases, there are very specific maintenance needs, like the fire department has, where they don't want to cede maintenance funds or maintenance authority. So, you know, even on the town side, we'd have to start by just consolidating the town maintenance budgets. So at least we were down to a town maintenance budget and school maintenance budget. But that's one practical, it's not a statutory challenge, but it's a budgetary / process challenge.
Yep, he summed it up really well. So the library is a great example. The library has statutory authority by Mass General Law, and if you cut their budget, you also risk their state aid because they have minimum contributions. So maintenance has been built into the library budget.
But you could have a line item where the maintenance charge comes over to the town's building department. It still would be the same budget for them, right?
Yes, but library funds are approved by the library trustees.
Well, again, I feel like we're I realize, Scott, I've been through that it's not as simple as it sounds, but I also feel like we're making it more complicated than we need to make it. I'm not suggesting that the independent boards, the library, the schools and so forth, would not have a say in how we allocate the budget each year. We could still budget. But this idea that later expenses have to be approved by 3 different budgets and the guys split into 2 or 3 different cost centers is silly. It's just silly. If we can get together and hammer out a budget and then hand that budget to a unified department where there's it's your department, right? And you run it. And I agree, I realize that guys like the fire chief are gonna say, well, I really want my guy to go change the light bulb. I don't wanna call, okay, fine, change your light bulb. But, I mean, regular things would be done by maintenance, but I just feel like we're approaching it the wrong way. We're approaching it from all the problems, historical problems, and we ought to say, no. How would we design, just like we said, Highland, how would you design it, like if you were designing it again? And, one of the things, I come out of the aviation industry, and Herb Kelleher, who founded Southwest Airlines, I mean, he was a proponent, my job is to fly people from A to B. Everything else I should vend out, because it's not flying them from A to B. Your job is to educate kids, and, fire department fight fires. We should have a unified, I really believe we should have a unified approach to managing our built infrastructure.
Any comments from either Jim or the school committee folks?
I have more questions. I mean, are you on like a payroll system? Is everyone on the same platform? So maybe that's one thing.
No kidding.
Yeah, because I mean, when we first had this discussion, and we've had a committee meeting, Jim and I worked on a technology survey, other towns.
We're on
Like
Unis.
software obviously lends itself to licensing. You get a lot of economies of scale with that. Same thing with platforms. So I mean, that's just low-hanging fruit from everything we've researched. So anywhere there's software, if there's opportunities to share, I think most of us would be very open to that, but I don't want to speak for Jim. But I think that's the easiest ones, and then we can focus on, like you're saying, our core competencies of what we want to do. But I don't know enough about the infrastructure.
I agree.
Yeah,
We are in Unis together.
because then it's just cost transfer,
Bills
to
are
Dave's
paid.
point.
I don't want to-
Bills are paid, yeah.
But
Yeah.
the payroll's not?
They're not on Bamboo. How do
Yeah,
they?
well, Bamboo's a tracking, our payment goes through Munis. Payroll is combined, yeah, on Munis.
So payroll is coming. Okay, yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah.
Because I immediately think.
No, I know, you're right. I mean, we
cost
should have,
transfers,
where we can be common. We're a little town, we're 5,000. We're like a nit on, Worcester or say nothing of Boston. I mean, we're a department, like in those cities, right?
Yeah.
Well, and
Scott? Yeah.
I think from a budget perspective, when I left FinCom, it was the push to try to do a centralized maintenance budget, and I think it was, well, let's try it out and see how it works first. It sounds like we've tried it out, so I think one thing to talk about with FinCom and the budget discussions is one of our goals to create a centralized maintenance department / budget that would combine at least the town side of things, and then you can layer the school on that. But when I was on FinCom, we were pushing for that, and I know we were trying and doing some trials to make sure it worked, and before we move funds over to a central town account for maintenance. if we've had that trial, it seems appropriate to look at that now and say, is this something we're gonna do in the upcoming fiscal year?
But I mean, even just like the simple one, what we're talking about with Stephen, just payments, I mean, streamlining that into
Yeah,
one
right.
system, I mean, that sounds like cost transfers happen all day long at different companies and municipalities, you know, allocating, seeing those line item transfers, but.
Well, and then there's things like, you know, where the elevators, if they could come once to check all the elevators in town, because every time they come to do an elevator, I think it was, I forget what the charge was just for the traveling to get there, was ridiculous. And so it was important to, if you have one person coordinating all that, that really, you know, helps. I see Scott was
Well,
saying.
and part of the reason we're in this maintenance backlog is we put it all on the individual departments to manage their buildings. And
Yeah.
so, you know, the library director didn't know what they were supposed to be doing with the heating system. And it's not only getting the benefit of cost savings, it's also making sure we have a centralized professional maintenance plan for
Yeah.
buildings and for
Absolutely.
equipment and an inventory and all the things that we've been lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there seems to be agreement. What's the action plan?
Well, let me just ask Jim if he wants to say anything on this topic. Yeah, Jim?
Sure. Yeah, so I would agree with pretty much everything that's been said, right? We did a soft merger, which became kind of a full merger. And we are operating as if we have a fairly kind of town side, school side, centralized facility department. And that seems to be going well, right? So that's great. So I think the next step is for us to look at how can we kind of merge the funds and the funding. And I know Ryan was working on that last year, kind of looking to unify the town, different line items and bring their facilities together. And as Travis said, then we could merge the school. I mean, the school committee can talk about merging the school and the town facility budgets together. I think that, when we spoke, I think 2 years ago, right, that was the intended outcome that we
Yes.
were all looking to make happen. So, I think that seems to be the next step, because knock on wood, right, that soft merge of the operation seems to be going well, and I see Jeremy there in the audience, and kind of with Stephen and with Ryan collaborating, and with Jeremy's absolute active participation, like that auditorium project is moving forward, but it's only through their collaboration that that's happened, so I think that's the next feasible step, or the next step for us with regard to the facilities department. I think the other items you mentioned are regarding kind of how we can look to merge departments, those are some topics for the school committee to unpack a little more, right? Whether it's IT, finances, maintenance, we get the maintenance, but human resources. Those are some conversations the school committee can have over the next couple of months as we look at that. And at the same time, we can talk with the town side to see what the needs are with regard to something like IT or human resources, and how we can look to bring those together. Hopefully find the same success that I think we're finding with the facilities department right now, as we move into phase 2, let's say, as we unify the finances.
What about procurement? Is that also been discussed?
Yeah, so Andy and I talked a lot about that today. So procurement under the capital plan will be under me,
Okay,
with Andy checking it, and even if it's school. And then on the school side, goods and services and other school-related procurements, he's handling that. There was a little gray there for a while, but we figured that out.
okay.
Because we didn't want Stephen going to two different
Two
people
different
with two
procurement,
different
yeah,
answers.
so capital items are going through you, basically.
Procurement.
Yes, for procurement, that's what I meant.
We're working on a process with Stephen in order to, a lot of the decentralized procurement in town has resulted in, myth-based procurement. So if I get 3 quotes, I'm good, right? So we want to make
Yes.
sure you submit an order to, and that's not Stephen, that's like
No, yeah.
old Carlisle. So
Well, and
the idea of having a process that all departments understand, and once they realize it's helpful and protective, then it's not preventative, then that's good.
Yeah, and then a lot of the problem with the maintenance also was that, well, there was a lot of deferred maintenance because they really didn't know how to.
Well, that all
what to
goes
do,
under
so-
the rubric of, professional department that's
Yeah,
going to look at the big picture. So it sounds like, building on what Jim said, we could move the maintenance merger into phase two, which would be maybe more formalized processes. I'm not sure exactly what they'd be yet, but that could be a thing that gets worked on. And then initiate phase one, or maybe it's at 1.5, I don't know, things like IT, HR, some of that's already being done, right? Aubrey's doing some HR? She doing some of the,
There's
benefits are common, right?
some good sharing of talent between town and school informally.
Aren't benefits managed as one
Yes.
platform, right? So that's already done, right, by the town side? And IT, we use drive-through, drive-by.
Drive.
They're now called the 20. They're called the 20 now.
The 20, but we used to use.
Drive Tech.
Drive Tech.
Well, we used to use the individual expertise of Scotty and those guys in school. Are we using them at all anymore?
Scott's pretty good. If I ever reach out with a question, he'll answer it, but he's not
Not formalized.
He's not connected to town IT except where it overlaps.
And school doesn't use Drive Tech 20, whatever. Okay. Well, I mean, so what's the best way to kind of, on the first question, on the, what's your recommendation on how to progress on the phase two of the building side and the phase one of whatever else we could?
Right, so I'll try to be as clear as Jim was. So I think a lot of the times it said, we could just do this and it would be easy, right? Like we could consolidate supply, we could consolidate maintenance, we can consolidate IT. I don't think it's easy. I think there's a lot of turfdom, there's a lot of historical processes and procedures that are just unknown to the policymakers. So it would be good if there were some things that you definitely wanted to dig into, we could have some grants information come to you to show you what it would actually look like, what the difficulties might be, and whether or not that's worth doing. What I don't want to do is look for a grant where you're just like, no, we're not sharing that. You know, it would be great to say the no's, and then we can get you the maybes, and you can actually see. But consolidating things, like people define supplies and maintenance differently. So some of your departments, you'd be surprised how much they're going to fight over. Like, that's not really maintenance. That's
Okay, but you're kind of answering a different question. If we have consensus that the trial period on the combined maintenance building department, the soft merger, as Jim said, worked. We've done it for a year plus. It's working. It's got some kinks, so we have to unkink, but it's working. So the validation of that, which is step one, well, maybe step zero is to coalesce around something that could be shared, which we did with that. Step one is to try it, which we did that. So let's set aside for the moment IT and all the other stuff and say, just with that, what we've been talking about, what is the recommended path forward to go the next level on a centralized building department where we have a single budget, we figure out how it's built, and, you know, they work for one, they work under a vertical structure, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's where I think I'm asking your guidance of how you would recommend progressing that.
Wouldn't it be appropriate to, since we're getting into the budget season in the fall, to use this time to think about, figure out how we would use that development of the budget to end up with a combined budget amount, or however you want to, you know, define it, but that basically that would be the pathway to combining funds and having a single maintenance department.
Yes, identifying which funds to combine, who's in charge of those funds, how it's executed is key. And I do think you'll be surprised in the details. You know, there's more to it than just.
Okay, but that would teach us, we have to try something, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we do
And
that?
it may not be 100% of the maintenance funds in year one. It may be,
No, it may
let's,
not,
Right.
you know, let's
Be
take
phased.
50% or whatever is
Yeah, you do something,
agreeable,
right,
and you just slowly refine it over time.
right. So I
I
think
mean,
that'd
the goal would
great.
be to remove the obstacles for Stephen, so he doesn't have to get 3 signatures, he doesn't have to do all this stuff. And what's the best way to remove those obstacles?
Yeah.
Let me just give a quick, you know, anecdote so you can understand. So Stephen's pay, right, was a discussion at this point in the budget. So his pay was increased because of the increased responsibilities. So part of it's in the town budget, a tiny bit of it, and the majority of it's in the school budget. So Kelly had to create a separate tracking account to put the town money into it. We had to write an MOU and sign it to make sure that Stephen paid, and then we had to decipher whether or not he got the school COLA or the town COLA. Right, so there's a whole separate account for a very small part of his salary in order to pay what he deserves, which is a good living wage. That exists in a lot of places, right? And it's not a ton of work, but when you add it up for Kelly and all that, like, it's just time wasted and inefficiencies that we'd rather spend money somewhere else.
Not just Stephen's time that's wasted.
Yeah, it's Kelly, it's me and Jim.
Yeah.
But it's because we had two, his salary's being paid out of two separate buckets. If you create Barney's point, if you create one bucket, if you commit, I don't want to be too prescriptive in this meeting, but as you point out, we're about to enter budgeting season. We got a lot of seasoned professionals and volunteers who know how to budget. We should figure out a process. We should have maybe charged FinCom with helping figure out a process where we can budget one bucket.
And the
try to-
finance staff, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
You've got a great
And,
professional
you know,
staff and.
do we need a little?
draw-
I mean, so thinking of what you said, I mean, wouldn't we design contracts that all the, like, the COLA and types of information are consolidated, so it'd be a lot of work up front, but then it would live on, so it might be a little upfront work for Kelly, or anything we do in collaboration with the schools, but then we would come with agreements and build out into the budget for whatever the COLAs are that in any shared
I think,
services.
I would just say, Julie, I think COLA is,
I'm using COLA as one of the.
well, COLA's probably not the great example because we're not suggesting a merger of the COLA on school, which is largely driven by your collective bargaining
I
agreement.
don't even want to touch that. I don't
I
want to be
understood, so I'm
misspoken
just
about.
saying.
Trust me.
A guy like Stephen would have, again, I'm gonna, make up a scenario that may not be the true one, but if the building department is on the town side, then he's a town employee and he lives with the town side rules, and he'd have to be okay with that. And, there's other ways to make people whole. I think approaching it by trying to do some weird hybrid of school COLAs and town COLAs are different for a very different reason, is what I'm saying. So trying to make this mixture is probably not the best thing. It's like, you're a town employee, let's negotiate what your compensation is, and that's the end of that.
I shouldn't have touched that. I just meant more the upfront work for whatever the
Yeah,
agreement is.
so each of those
to get
little
that
things
done.
has to be
Yeah.
tackled. So my question was, is that best by a little task force? I'm looking for your guidance, Ryan.
I think it has to be school committee, FinCom, select board, figuring that out, yeah.
But, again, they got other things. I think personally, I think it's more at the administrative level to come up with identify the issues, come up with recommendation approaches, and then come back to us, than rather us trying to work out, well, is it COLA and is it this and that? I don't think that's a good use of either board's time. I think we have a consensus that we want to make it happen. We should flip it back to the daytime government to come up with a plan.
Well, I guess that's the question. Do we have a consensus?
We have consensus, yeah.
I think so.
Well,
I'm not hearing.
I'm
no
asking the
consensus.
school committee.
I think we all want the same thing.
I know, okay.
We show that we share well, collaborate well.
Yeah.
It's just the processes,
Right.
and we have to understand there's some unintended consequences already and expect more, and we're gonna work through them.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense.
And I think that, like, what I'm hearing though, and I guess maybe this is the gist of what I was saying, is outside of the committees, I think, like, this also sounds like an HR thing, right?
Yeah.
Because I also worry about, I want Stephen to be happy, and that sounds like a thorn. So, if we're gonna scale this, I think having HR be a part of
Yeah.
that is important too.
Again,
So maybe
daytime
that's-
government.
Yeah, maybe
It's a
that's,
daytime
like you
government
said,
function.
yeah.
I see that Jim has his hand up, and then I'm also conscious of the time, so we're going to need to wrap this up shortly. Yeah, Jim?
Yeah, I was just thinking, we're at a point, as you said, like, we're gonna be developing our budgets pretty soon, right?
Yeah.
September usually, October. So like, as we go through that process, we'll develop a facility budget on the school side, which we'll probably have a good grasp of mid-October. And if the town's developing their budgets, I know there's a couple of different facility budgets and Ryan's trying to bring them all together. But we could have kind of all our facility numbers, like, pretty close by December, right? So at that point in time, all the entities will have identified the funds that they think they need in order to operate at which time we might consider, okay, what do we need to do in order to be able to bring these funds together under that one facilities department, and then school committee, select board, everybody has their conversations and votes to endorse and sign on to that approach. Is
Yeah.
that too?
That's what I was referring to as the MOU, that we have a memorandum of agreement or understanding about how those funds, once you've identified yours and we've identified ours, and then we pool them, how they're either accounted for or, how they're put together.
Again, I
Yeah.
view that as a daytime government, John. The mechanics of merging.
Yes, yeah,
The budgets can be at the committee's levels, but I
Right.
think the mechanics, which is the details that Scott's mentioning, and Ryan's mentioning, and Julie's mentioning, it's daytime government to
yeah.
get together.
But as I said, the thing is that once this daytime government were to leave, it's nice to have that
Procedures. No,
memorandum
yeah,
so
yeah.
that,
We will, of course, we memorialize it.
Yeah.
As they do all their
Yeah.
policies, right?
okay.
All right, well, I think,
This is the direction that we want to head, at least it sounds like from the select board standpoint and possibly from the school committee. So if the daytime government would take that responsibility and move that forward, I think that sounds great.
all right. School
All right,
committee,
cool.
good?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
guys,
great.
thank you.
Excellent.
All
Take
right.
the rest of the evening off.
Thanks, school committee.
Take the rest of the evening off.
Yeah, right.
Yes, do you have to close your meeting? Or- Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the Carlisle School Committee meeting.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Oh, yeah, Viola, aye.
Watterson, aye.
With I. Okay, meeting
Now
adjourned.
it's all Bs and Ws.
I was just gonna say, it's the first time in my life I've ever gone first.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Mary.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
All right, next item is the, under the sustainability agenda item, the Hanscom resolution, which is
Oh,
in our
yeah.
packets. And are we, we're just ready to review this and vote on it,
Yep.
I believe,
Yes,
right?
I think
So, thank you, Scott, for a masterful job
Yeah,
of
excellent
putting
job.
together this resolution. Why don't we take the motion and a second, and then we can see if there's any discussion.
Hang on. Oh, that's not the thing. I move we, yeah,
Can you see it in here?
I have it. Hang
David,
on.
you want to read it? Can you get it,
oh.
Kate, or here?
That's
Okay,
okay.
I'll read it. Boy, Kate's just dishing off
I
these
tell
movement
you.
responsibilities from you.
Okay,
I move to proclaim opposition to the LG Hanscom Field North Airfield Development and request the Governor of Massachusetts to take all possible actions to prevent the project as stated in the included resolution.
Second.
Okey doke. Any discussion?
I thought it was well done. Scott did the draft of this. and
Yes.
I thought it was excellent, and I think it's in keeping with what we discussed, and we had a hearing on this, and, it seems to make a lot of sense.
I agree.
Any other comments? All right, well, let's take a roll call vote then on this resolution. Arnold, aye.
Model I.
Read I.
Now, aye.
Triola, aye.
All right, the
Excellent.
resolution is passed unanimously. Thank you. All right.
Caught up in time. Look at
Yeah,
you.
look at that. So Friends of Center Park, hi, Allison.
Come on up.
Thank you for joining us. And if you'd say your name and your street address, please.
Allison Saylor, Stern Street, and I represent Friends of Center Park.
Thank you. And we have in our packet the revised agreement that you went back and forth a few times, but we have in our packet the agreement that was the last draft that you did and provided to us. Do you want to make a short presentation?
Yes, I was told
Okay.
I have a few minutes
Yes.
to talk, so I will take advantage of that. So Friends of Center Park was created in 2019, and a lot of people think we're part of the Garden Club, the Carlisle Garden Club, and we are not, although some of us are Garden Club members. We took the money from the town that had been set aside for Center Park, and we took a mandate at the time, and the agreement that's in place right now, to set up a nonprofit organization so that we could accept donations on behalf of Center Park. And we had it
That's the old one.
since 2019 that the DPW would do the lawns and that the garden club would do one cleanup and one in the spring and one cleanup in the fall as a joint event, but that most of the maintaining of the rather complicated and complex and delightful garden beds would be done by Friends of Center Park. So we did that. We set up a task force, and then it turned into a 501c3, and we have a president. I am the president of Friends of Center Park. We should have 9 directors, but we have 6 at this time. We have an events director, Emily Richardson. We have a treasurer, Chris Cox. Communications director, Cecile Sandwin. Secretary is Elizabeth Wojcicki. A member at large is Dana Booth, and I am the horticultural director as well. We are missing a VP and a fundraising director, and Barney is our select board liaison. In the calendar of events for Center Park, we'll start with January. If there's a nice snowstorm or very cold weather, we'll have ice sculptures or snow sculptures, but basically it's open dawn to dusk, 365 days a year, and it's not used as much in January. In February, we organize a public input meeting where we have a Zoom meeting where we ask people to give input, because we, as Friends of Center Park, have a cycle of getting our plans together in March and having that be our plans for the season. So February, we get some input. In March, we do a pruning event and have our plans organized for the year so that we can start in April and go all the way through the end of October having free community garden classes organized by the Master Gardeners of Massachusetts, of which I am the project leader for. Carlisle Center Park is an official project. And we run classes open to all every Monday. November, we have that last cleanup with the garden club, and then December, we do very little because it's December. Our biggest event of the year is Halloween, where we have 400 to 500 people coming through to our spooky trail. But in general, the amount of events at Center Park has increased tenfold because of our free garden classes and our promoting of events. Carlisle Cultural Council do activities, the library has activities. During COVID, when everyone wanted to be outside, we were perfect for that. So in looking back over, we're almost at the 5-year mark of what we have done. We started with a beautiful park, professionally designed and maintained, with a lawn and extensive garden beds around that. What we did in our stewardship is take a new model of using volunteers to do a lot of the work. And we decided that a lot of the park was not being used. The woodland gardens, you could see them. The stone walls are the lot lines that define, don't blink, it's a very tiny little park. But we have pushed in pathways into the woodland gardens. We have revealed some beautiful stones that are sitting, 10 stones that are, if we had paid for them, it would have been a budget buster. But we found them there when we were trying to do some of our plantings. We have fundraised and created 3 beautiful benches for the woodland gardens. We have some new planting areas. It's a funny word, it's Hügelkultur. It's a German word meaning hill culture. We have a Hügelkultur, we have 2 of them now, but the first one we put in took a lot of the tree trunks that were culled from some congested trees, and then you lay down the branches, then you lay down the sticks and the leaves, and then you plant in it. And we have a living fence with made out of pussy willows that is thriving in that area. The removing of some of the trees allowed for a pollinator garden to be put in. We removed poison ivy, bittersweet, multiflora rose, some burning bushes. We've added a little bistro table. We sponsor events. We have a new website. We've been planting new flowers and plants and shrubs. We even planted a tree, even though we have a lot of trees already. But we're promoting, in the woodland gardens, we promote native plants. And in the charming lawn area, public park area, whatever is pretty will be fine for us. We Asian beauties, European delights are fine too. We're very proud of the sign that we got through the Historical Commission, and it now hangs from the tree. And we have in the past been in charge of the irrigation. We have money that we have spent on behalf of Center Park includes some very irritating bills on irrigation, the sign, plants, soil, labels, benches, and tree pruning. The money that we'd like spent in the future is irrigation, tree pruning, tree removal, shed, and these are things which we think are beyond the scope of our little nonprofit. These are things that I think the town should do. That's sort of the discussion for today. We'd like a picnic table, we'd like a trash can, and a few more benches. We have a very good working relationship with the DPW. We love them. They do a good job mowing the lawn and clearing snow and giving us wood chips when we ask for it and cutting down some of the trees. We had, this past month, we had a catalpa removed. The abutter agreed that it was going to get too large and might damage her house, so we agreed to take it down, and the DPW took care of it. We've been working with the Historical Commission. They've approved our shed request, but they denied our picnic table. And we're in a current disagreement because they consider furniture to be an accoutrement and therefore in their jurisdiction. But it's disappointing because in 2020, I went to them, and that committee at the time said that only things that were bolted into the ground were considered their jurisdiction and that furniture was not. So that still hasn't quite played out, but it's something that we're working on. The irrigation is shared with the police station, and for the first few years, the water and the electrical line came through onto the street and was fine. And then last year, the electrical line got ruined somehow, and so we had to go to a battery-operated system. And this year, we haven't used it at all because they said the water doesn't work. And I don't know the story of it, but we're not as worried about it because we hand water our new plants as we give them TLC to get them through their first year. And irrigation is not important. With our movement to more native plants, it's just not a big deal for us. But if it's needed, it's expensive. And then also another thing that just happened, very sad, there's a big elm tree in the front between the oak tree with the lovely sign and ferns. And it leafed out beautifully, as it has done for the past, I don't know, 40 years or so, and then suddenly shriveled up its leaves and is dying. And we had Andrew Jocelyn say to us that it seems to have the dreaded Dutch elm disease and probably will need to come down within a year. He said it's not an emergency, like you don't have to do it this week, but he said within a year, so anyone can go look at it. It's very sad. What Friends of Center Park would like for the future is to get money for the shed. We'd like a picnic table. We'd like a really nice trash can, not one big enough that people have a wild urge to put their own domestic trash in there, but one that is waterproof and looks pretty, and they're expensive, and we haven't found one yet. And I'd like a few more benches, but mostly we're here to do the 5-year re-up because we think that the agreement we have with Friends of Center Park is working.
Great, thanks, Allison. Just as someone who's been the liaison for a little while, I'll say that Allison and I, when Allison first provided a revised agreement. We had the opportunity to sit down and talk about it, which I thought was very helpful. And if you were looking at the original 2019 agreement and comparing it to this agreement, most of this is the same as that original agreement. If you look at the revised agreement, this current proposed agreement, if you're looking at item number 2, what's changing here is indicating that the DPW would be responsible for the management of the irrigation system as opposed to the oversight. Everything else in that item 2 is the same as it was in the 2019 agreement. The new part is in bullet number 3, which includes the shed. Everything else that is mentioned there, it says, the town agrees to pay for, well, the irrigation system and the tree pruning is already included in item number 2 above there for the DPW, so I'm not sure that we need to have that there. I think the issues for us to really discuss tonight are the request that the town agrees to pay for ongoing capital, and then also the request to pay for a shed. And when...
That's the same thing. Shed is the capital. There's no other capital.
Well, then it would be good to just clarify that it's just to pay for the shed.
Yeah.
Because that, if you just leave it as ongoing capital. So then it boils down to the shed. And when Allison and I spoke, I said that I thought the way to handle that would be for the Friends of Center Park to go through the process that any other department does in terms of the budget and coming forward and making a request in the budget process of us developing the budget. But Allison wanted to keep it in the agreement. So I said that would be then probably the heart of the discussion tonight, to figure that out. The rest of the agreement, the only other thing that's been added is item number 7, which is
Actually, that was in,
about the Friends of Center Park agreeing to work with the Historic Commission on proposed structures for the park. And that comes out of some of the experience that's happened over the last 5 years. And I think both parties will benefit from having discussions about plans early on in the process, and then maintaining good communication. So I think that's a good thing to have in this new agreement. But I want to know if others have different questions, or if we're okay with the basic agreement, which is fundamentally like the previous one. Then it's really the shed that we're talking about.
I'm not seeing the shed identified as a separate.
Well, you've got a blue, I don't know what,
Here.
This is
what's
the
that one
mark.
you're looking?
number 3.
Yeah, I don't know. We had a new packet come out this afternoon.
This is from the new
I
packet.
can put it on the screen here.
Yeah, that'd be
that's-
good.
that's-
This is it right here, yeah.
Well, that part I see, but it's the number 3.
Mm-hmm. You see where it
I
says,
see that I can
second
read,
line,
but I'm
including
saying-
the shed.
I'm looking at the markup, which I thought was the markup of that to the original,
It was
but it's
very,
not.
our packets were very confusing
Okay,
around
so
this.
that's
Which is
not
why I
good.
had questions
So we
about
don't
it.
have a real markup. We don't have a red line.
No, well,
That
we-
to that.
right.
We don't, right? We have
Um,
that to something in the middle, and then they
so,
change it.
because there's a lot of stuff that doesn't,
There
they
was more
needed
markup.
to become,
There was another markup, so.
Yeah.
okay,
Right, I didn't
so-
include it, or
All right.
it
So
was
let me
not
ask-
included.
Let me ask a basic question. You raise money, you're a 501c3, so you raise money to do stuff. Do you also submit a budget to the town for stuff you want the town to do?
We've never done that before.
So
We
where
are,
do we, how is
You're
the
asking-
stuff the town does do, not the new stuff?
DPW
It's
falls
just
under their
tucked into the
budget.
DPW budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I have a problem with number 3.
Okay.
Because, first of all, we did see a request for a shed already, which we said no to. So I certainly would not agree to say, I wouldn't say that I agree that we're going to pay for the shed in this document. So Full stop. Yes, I don't have to say any further.
And, I don't know if,
I think it was more, can I just point out that
Sure.
it's more that, I think that the shed is an identified need. When we get a shed, what it's gonna look like is identified because the Historical Commission have approved it. But when we get it, it's going to have to be paid for by the town, because Friends of Center Park just don't have the funds,
Well, then
ever.
you're not going to have a shed. I mean, that might be, but the whole idea of the original agreement was that the town gave some seed money to get you started, but that there was going to be a 501c3 to do fundraising for operating the park going forward, and that if you became unable to maintain the garden beds and the beds, that the park would revert to the town. So if you're unable to get a shed and you can't operate the park without a shed, then the park reverts to the,
Shed is to store the stuff you need to do the.
Right, currently, I have to use my own personal tools and bring them every single Monday, and I've done it for 5 years and I'm a little tired of it.
Yeah.
I'd like a shed, I'd like to be able to, I can't get grant money to buy tools for the shed. I get money from grants from the master gardeners, and we can
Yeah.
buy tools, we can, put tools that would belong to the town in the shed,
Okay.
but it's,
You don't think you could raise the money for a shed?
I think it would be challenging, I don't have a fundraising director.
you have an estimate though, right, for what the cost?
10,000.
$10,000.
It'll be less than that if all these things align and the economy stays relatively the same, it'll be under 10,000. But the Historical Commission have added a few things to it that made it a little pricier, but that's their
I
prerogative.
mean, if the library
They do
can
that.
raise a few $1 million, I don't know, I think it isn't, I agree with you, I think it's incumbent on the town to say, we need to be pushing these fundraisings to the groups that want them.
yeah.
I like the analogy of Friends of Gleason Library and Friends of Council on Aging. You don't expect them to pay for the library salaries for the librarians, they're for the extras. We consider us for the extras. And so the shed is just beyond us. We'll help, we'll try. I'll write grant money, I'll talk to people, I'll present it. I have already. Getting it through the Historical Commission was not easy. But I'm just being realistic. We are in debt. The town said that they would pay for things for Center Park with the exception of us becoming incorporated. And it turns out it costs several $1,000s to become incorporated. So we have no money, we have negative money, and we're trying to pay it off. And we get more money from grants than people giving us money. And if I sound pathetic, I am a little pathetic. That's all we can do. And I'm saying it's going to be very helpful to run it in this sustainable way with volunteers doing the work to have a shed. And that's all. I'm not asking you to promise you'll pay for a shed.
Well, this does say that we promise
That's
to pay
why
for a
I would
shed.
take, that's why I recommended we take it out of the agreement and then have you put it,
Just
present
put a
it
request in,
as you
yeah.
go through, as we start going through our budget process.
I'll agree to that, but I want the select board to realize that I am expecting the town to help with a shed, because it is too much. You don't ask for the Friends of Gleason Library to pay for things that are for the library.
Actually, we do.
Yeah, we do.
The analogy is, I mean, you're not trying to pay, but yeah, we pay for the COHS director, we pay for the staff, we pay for library staff, but we expect the library to raise for special projects, I think.
Right, we do for
money.
special projects, and
Well, this is a special project. I mean, I think what I'm hearing sounds pretty good.
Okay.
Like, let's not make it a requirement of the agreement,
all right,
but you can come and petition, like, I mean, if fire department needs something, they have to come in and they have to get in the rack and stack, and
Fair enough.
so it shouldn't be any different, right?
What
Scott or,
department would this, if it's a budget request, it's gonna have to go through one of the departments, so what is the
CPW.
maybe the
so you would have to talk to DTW and have them request that as part of your budget,
So I think it
as
would,
part of their budget. We're not looking to create a new department here, it would have to
No.
go through a departmental budget.
I think this would be a select board request
A select board
or town
request.
administrator.
did you hear what Ryan said? Go ahead, I
So,
don't think he
from a
heard you.
budget standpoint, it would go under what? The select board budget?
Yes. Well, it's a capital
Yeah.
item, so
It's a capital, yeah.
Yeah, that just sounds It doesn't sound in line with our process. I mean, ultimately, it has to come through FinCom, or the budget process. It has to be vetted through the budget process. Versus the select board committing to something, you know, obviously it can't go in the agreement, but it should be treated like any other budget request.
Yeah. Travis?
I'm just not clear which department it's through. And I wouldn't see the select board, it going in the select board budget.
Well, we could figure that out, I think, between now and the start of the budget process. But Travis, did you want to comment?
No, I'm in agreement with what Kate and Scott and David have said. And Barney, if you have other thoughts, I'd love to hear those too. But I think it is, something that is should be privately raised at this point for funding. And, if you want to come before us during the budget process, that's, however that mechanics of that work out, that's fine. But I just think I'm not supporting it at this point. So I'd advocate that it comes out of this agreement too.
So
if
I'm
we-
ready, I can make a motion if you.
Yeah, so we'll strike item
I move
3
to
entirely.
Accept the terms of agreement between the town of Carlisle and Friends of the Center Park with the elimination of number 3.
All of number 3 or just? the
All of
second?
number 3.
Because the other items are included in number 2.
The other items are already included in number
Okay,
2.
Okay, yep, okay.
And is there anything I'm missing about the oversight versus management of the irrigation system? Is that a trivial thing, change?
That's a good question. What, has there been a
The
second
item number-
before we have the
Yeah.
conversation?
Oh, wait, hold on, let's get a second on the
I'll
table.
second.
Okay.
All right, David
Sorry.
seconded.
Apologies.
Yeah, I think,
okay.
was that your change from oversight to maintenance?
Yes, do you want me to explain
Mhm.
why? For no reason that we can figure, the water supply broke and there was a big leak in the parking lot of Center Park. And the irrigation company had to come, and that was the same year that the wire got broken and they had to put in all the new valves and put a battery system. So we had a $2,000 irrigation bill that year. We usually get something on the order of $500, and that we can sort of put up with, although seriously most money goes into irrigation. And then we have another thing this year saying something else went wrong, and we don't need the irrigation that much. We would like a water supply with a spigot so we can hand water, but having it automatically irrigate to the point where the police station can't flush their toilets, which is what we heard, I don't need it. I don't need it. So
So
thank
what
you.
you're
You
trying
figure it out.
what you're trying to say here is that
I'm pushing it off to the
it's the
DPW.
responsibility of the DPW.
or somebody.
Right.
That
So
sounded
management of the
right.
irrigation system could be shutting it off.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So
All
that's
right.
good. All right.
Everybody okay with that?
Is DPW on board with that change? Have we talked to DPW?
Al, who looks after town hall and some of the landscaping, said he was looking into it a
I
couple of
mean, if
weeks
shutting
ago.
off is a recommendation, how would they not? be
Friends
able
of
to?
Center Park do not need the irrigation.
Right, so the management of it means just not using it.
You would like a water supply.
I would like a water supply. We've had it before and it's there, ready to go, and I don't understand quite
So
why
a
it doesn't
pipe
work.
goes from wherever the source is, across the road or under
It's the
road.
police station's water and it goes
Right.
under the road.
But
May
you
I,
say
this is
replace
Cynthia
the-
Sorn, I don't want to interrupt, but Travis, you know the answer to this from the MFC.
Travis went away, I think.
Mm-mm, he's there.
Oh, he's there.
I'm here, but I don't know what she's referring to.
Well, I'll be glad to speak, but I can speak at the end if you prefer.
No, take.
No, go ahead, Cynthia, if we can
I
do this quickly.
apologize, Cynthia Sorn, 433 Rutland Street. At the last Municipal Facilities Committee, they learned that the ramp project at the police station, when the sound tubes were sunk, they broke the irrigation system, and when they repaired it, they did not repair the branch that went to Center Park.
So they have
And the
no water.
MFC discussed about how they would take on the cost of repairing it to provide the water to Center Park.
Who would cover the cost?
MFC would.
The MFC discussed this, yes, as covering it because it was part of their ramp project.
I see.
Thank
But-
you.
But currently, you have a spigot that produces water?
No,
A
because
spigot
the
that does
line's
not
broken.
produce water
Okay,
this
so-
year. We've had it all the other
But
years.
that's
have to
what you,
rewrite.
you want to have a spigot
put
that,
new
that
numbers.
provides
I have to
water.
lug
You
water
don't- But you
and
don't
tools.
need the irrigation of the lawn or any of that.
If it
Right.
is needed in the future, it's all there ready
So
to
I
be.
think
Got
we
it.
have to rewrite, actually, instead of wiping out 3, we have to change 3 to refer to, I guess, MFC agreeing, if they did agree, to provide a water supply in the form of a spigot.
If you want to just cross off irrigation, because Friends of Center Park don't want to have anything to do really with irrigation other than you please give us the water so we can.
Right,
the
I mean-
Water is
plants
what we're
nice.
talking about. No, we would get rid of irrigation, but we're now
we
introducing a
need
new
to-
requirement,
right.
which is,
The,
but we could be silent and we just deal with it as it
I'll
comes
I'll
up.
let you handle it because I don't know what to set right or change, so you do it. Oh, it's
Well,
fine.
Oh.
That's a can of worms, I would think. I'd want to hear from MFC now about if we're
Well,
going to
we're
put
not-
them in the
but
So-
agreement.
If
We're
we're not
not
obligating anybody, we just deal with that as requests.
Well, here's my suggestion, that,
think this
one, we
needs to be
check in
done
with
another
the
time.
DPW, with Jim.
Yeah.
2, that we check in with MFC to determine whether that was a commitment that they're going to follow through on in terms of the repair. And then, 3rd would be the question of, do we want to include in this agreement that we're going to provide access to water at Center Park?
I think we have, that requires another meeting.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
I
what I'm
agree.
saying.
So I'm going to withdraw my motion
Yeah.
to start with.
Let's table it. Yep.
And
We don't need to sign this till November.
yeah, we
and
can get it
Okay,
done.
good.
Actually,
All right.
September is when it runs out, but,
Right.
so what if it runs out in October, November? It's not going to affect
No, we should be
anything.
able to get it
We'll
done
get it done.
before beginning of
Okay.
September.
All right, so I don't have to do anything, it's all just what you're.
Yeah,
talking
we'll,
about.
someone will
figure it
redo
out.
this
We'll
after
figure it
we've checked in with the relevant parties.
So we're good.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Allison, and thank you to Center Park folks.
Okay, why
All
am I
right.
having trouble with this
Okay.
from there? So- Okay.
All righty.
Julie.
So we're at
Right on
the
time.
public facilities discussion about the OPMs, the project managers for the police station and the fire
I'm
station.
going to take a quick break. I will be right back.
May I ask a question,
Yes,
Madam Chair, acting temporary chair?
in,
Jeremy, are you just here for the lighting?
So why don't we do the
Can
light?
we take an item out of?
yes, we certainly can. So that's in your TA report,
in my TA
right?
report?
Okay. Julie, just a short pause, short detour.
No worries.
Okay.
Here all night.
So it's page 57 if you're
In the packet?
doing your packet, yeah.
And I have an updated one, so I'm going to put it right on the screen for everyone.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay, and that's not, but I will explain it.
Can you
Can you minimize
enlarge?
the thing in the comments and make that bigger? Yeah. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so some good news and then some options for the select board. After 3 rounds of procurement and tons of free work from Jeremy, we were able to get the Corey lighting under the state earmark and town meeting approved vote numbers. And that doesn't include any energy incentives and rebates that the town would get back and would turn into free cash eventually. So that's not a promise, but it is hanging out there. So that includes full upgrade of the system to include some of the safety requirements. But part of the bidding process was to, and here are the costs broken out for you. So the theater system from Barbizon, the engineering to get us down to this cost that we got,
Yep.
and then the electrical construction. So all of that's ready to go, and we're gonna have a pre-construction meeting very soon in order to get this done by Thanksgiving, which was our target. So the deferred items here are alternate items that we are looking to see if the select board will support through ARPA funding.
Yep.
And Jeremy's here to talk you through what I can't, but the idea is that we want our emergency lights to come on when the power goes out. And this bypass allows that to happen in a safe manner for the entire theater. We need to treat the curtains to make sure that they're fireproof. And as the rigging comes down to add the new equipment, we want to add safety items to that. And then while the performers and other people using the stage, to include like our cable company during town meeting, they move around backstage, it would be in our best interest to add blue safety lights. So the total cost for that, which is a little bit different for your packet, is $23,489. Jeremy, do you want to add anything to any of those?
No, I think these were beyond the initial scope. They're all safety or code issues that were identified during the process. The fireproofing hasn't taken place on the curtains since 2011. It's supposed to happen every 4 or 5 years, so I mean, that wasn't part of the systems. But the other thing that's on there is that, you know, we're putting lights up. We're taking lights down that are existing, we're gonna put lights back on, changing out the rigging, which is the ropes and some of the cable connections. They're just at their end of their life, right? And that's something that we might as well do once and not have to do again a year from now, you know, take everything down again. It's just an opportunistic time saying, hey, they're at their end of the life, let's replace them. And then the backstage blues is, yep, we've had kids trip. It's very confined space back there, having some blue lights backstage so that when people come off of stage and they've been in the light, they can see what's going on. When there's blackouts, they can see what's going on and nobody gets stripped up. So all of these are safety related issues that are beyond the initial scope that we discovered as we went.
So we know that everything is compared to every other priority in town, but we do believe that providing this would increase safety at the school, complete this project, and it would be a lot cheaper doing it now. We're gonna have to do it again anyway as part of the capital plan. So the team of facilities, Jim O'Shea and myself are recommending that we do this now. I was asked to provide a quick, it doesn't have to be quick, but an update on ARPA. There's a lot to this, but you do have this funding available, about 29,000, and I'll let Scott speak.
No, you have 80,000.
You have 80,000 because you got the clause.
The green line, yeah.
So I met with Ryan and Kelly last week, and I'm gonna be doing an outreach to the projects next week to close out and claw back unused funds. Essentially where we're at is we have 80,000 unallocated, we have 14 in contingency. I believe we're getting the 40,000 back for the kitchen project, and I think there's other monies to be clawed back. So I think at the end of the day, we'll probably have about $150,000 of ARPA funds that we will look to allocate in the next 60 days, just to ensure that we get everything allocated before the deadline. So we looked at the list of potential uses that Ryan had prioritized. This was one of them among some others. There's some incomplete information. I don't think we could necessarily do all those things with the remaining funds, but certainly this would be a priority.
Okay, so we can do this.
We can do this. Ryan, can you just confirm, does this meet the procurement requirements?
It was in the alternates during the bid, so we have the pricing for it, and there was only one bidder for each, so this is
Okay.
really a change order.
Okay.
Yep. So we can certainly do this with ARPA funds
So
available right now.
do we want to take this motion then, the first motion that's on page 57, and do that now?
This
Yeah.
is the amount, 22,149.
Okay, let's change from what's in the motion.
Okay.
Okay,
Do you see that?
Yep.
I'm in the wrong.
Page
I
57.
move to approve $22,149 in ARPA funds to purchase lighting and electrical equipment. Shouldn't we also include the curtains? and
Yes,
lights?
and safety.
To purchase emergency lighting bypass, fireproof curtains, rigging safety paraphernalia, and backstage blue safety lights necessary to improve the, let's cut off here, the safety of the Corey Auditorium at the Carlisle Public Schools.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you for doing that ARPA presentation, because I just, you know, it's tempting to spend, things that you think you may have, and to know that there's a list, and to see where we were with clawbacks and everything like that, so
All right,
appreciate
well,
that.
any other comments? All righty, roll call vote. Arnold, aye.
Model I.
Reed, aye.
Snell, aye.
Fiola, aye.
All right,
All right. you're all set,
Okay.
that
Chairman.
motion carries.
So besides being a super user of the equipment, which is also volunteerism, there's absolutely no reason for Jeremy to have saved us thousands and thousands of dollars on this project. So I would like to thank him.
Thank you.
In many cases, knew more than the engineers did, so.
And we thank you as well. Thank you very much, Jeremy.
When it comes to small town government, nobody expects that no good deed goes unpunished when you volunteer to do something. It's been a learning experience, and I gotta thank Ryan and the entire staff for helping us through, especially town council. I think the procurement process couldn't have imagined what Massachusetts does to small towns. So, but we're
Good.
thrilled to have it within budget, and we're gonna have a great system for town, for the community, and the school. So,
Great, that's great.
And Jeremy Burley, 47 Hart Farm Road. I don't think I said that.
Okay, it's all
Thank you,
right.
Jeremy.
Get that in.
I would also like to add that Jeremy has lent the school his equipment for, I don't know how many years now, Jeremy, but not only has he helped and spearheaded this design, but he's free of charge, as far as I know, lent his personal equipment to the schools for many, many productions, and they've really enhanced the production, so thank you for that, Jeremy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to getting it back. It's been hanging there for a couple of years, so.
Good,
Loaded for one thing, who knew?
yeah, good. Well,
Thank
thank
guys.
you,
Have a good
Jeremy.
evening.
You
Appreciate
too.
it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, Julie.
Well, it's a tough act to follow,
New glasses, Julie?
just for fun.
Okay, so there's 3 OPM projects going at once here in town, and I'll summarize them quickly just to put this in context for the board. The Library Building Committee is procuring their OPM for the renovation of the Gleason Public Library. That is under the trustees and library authority. They have their own funding for that, but it is ongoing. This, 2 requests in front of you tonight. One is for the police station OPM. This is already out to bid. We're looking to get these back, I believe, by the end of the month. The primary question on the police station side is what you're okay with in terms of the selection of the OPM. So the process, the final process, whether that comes to you, whether you are continuing to delegate that to the Police Station Building Renovation Committee. And I will say, unlike the next OPM discussion, this one is the oversight of the construction and final phases of the project. There's really no design left. It's complete. And then the second one in your packet is much more extensive, and it was your direction to us to get this done, but it's to bring on an OPM to help you finalize the design. So this OPM is not only gonna do the construction part and the finalizing the project, but also help you feel confident in the design pick and the right type of fire station for Carlisle for the next couple decades. So same questions. Are you okay with the way we're procuring it? And then how are you gonna feel comfortable with the selection of this person?
So can we tackle the police station first, because it's
Yeah.
simpler?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, as you said, it's pretty straightforward. We do have a committee that's done a lot of work. I don't see any reason why we need to get more involved.
Well, we have to stick our oar in, yeah,
Exactly. I was
I'm
gonna say, be-
totally agree.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm all in favor of letting that committee, the bidding is you guys are procuring the,
Yep, we have a plan in place. They're gonna review it. It's whether or not you wanna interview the OPM at the end, or we just bring you a name.
I'm good with the latter.
I am
There's
too.
2 more members on the,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
Scott's got
All
his
right,
hand
we're
up,
good.
and
Okay,
Travis.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, so that was easy.
So we're
I
fine.
don't feel the same way about
So
the,
now, yeah, I need to get caught up on the process of the fire station. So we've had some back and forth. We're nowhere near a design. Are you saying that the OPM would help pick the architect? I mean, I'm not clear on what,
Yeah.
I understand OPM and the way the police station process does it. You have a project, you get a project manager, you say, here's our project, please manage it cost effectively, thank you very much, right? I'm not clear on an OPM in the design phase. I don't know what an OPM would add to that.
Well, I'll speak to that, at least for myself, is, we've been in many conversations as a board, And I have said pretty regularly that I didn't feel, knowledgeable enough, experienced enough to be able to say, yes, that's the design I think we should go with. And so one of the conversations we had not too long ago was about hiring an OPM whose first role was going to be to, I
Walk
don't
through
know all
the
the words,
options
right?
for
But
us,
yeah,
yeah.
once we put out the scope, which is in here, right? And that's something we do need to discuss. But once that's done, that then we would get bids back in this OPM, a neutral, experienced individual who's worked on projects like this before would be the one to really dig into the proposals and say, and vet them in a sense, right? Am
Wouldn't
I
that be an
talking about
architect's
this the
job,
right
though?
way?
Well, OPMs very often are architects.
And then be able to say to us, for these reasons, this particular bid looks to be the one that's going to do what you want it to do.
Okay.
Is that a fair description in layperson's terms?
So the OPM, it would likely be an architect, someone who is interested in helping you guide this project.
Would like to be an architect, or we would
Likely
like
be.
the OPM to
Would
be?
likely be.
Likely be,
Likely.
and we could require it if you want.
I don't think we need to require it.
The pre-design phase includes helping the select board, and I'm not sure that this needs to be, a full-time job, but helping the board walk through exactly what you want to procure from an architectural service in order to get the design that's necessary. So we did talk about this. The fire chief also recommended it, having, in his discussion with you, he said many smaller towns hire the OPM first during the design process in order to attract the type of designers that would be interested in this particular project. So the main problem with the last couple design runs we've done is that there just wasn't enough confidence in the design or in the cost estimation and whatever you want to consider for the select board to be willing to bring that forward to the town. So this was what we were told by you to do in order to bring someone to help you with that.
Okay.
Just a couple questions when I was reading through this. And maybe it's just because the version for the fire station was copying the version for the police station, but are you on the same timing for hiring the OPM?
Yes.
You are.
Well, we could be. It's up to you.
Well, we
Okay.
already missed
one
the
deadline.
June, or July
July 16th.
16th
But you've
deadline.
laid it out, so the thinking is, though, we would try to find an OPM for each project by the end of the summer, basically, right, is what that timing was?
Yeah.
So the thought process was, if you have an OPM, you might have the ability to put out for design bid around the fall town meeting and have a design that you could bring to the annual town meeting if you still wanted to bring it then.
Okay. And I wanted to just point out something that I really liked in both of these is that there's a stipulation that, we don't allow any going forward to the next phase unless the project is within budget, right?
Yeah.
And that's a specific thing that the OPM is responsible for.
Yeah, well, of course, in this case, the OPM might end up telling us, well, your budget is, you guys.
under,
Yeah,
Right.
but that's partly why we want an OPM.
Exactly.
But it says on page 48 of the packet, under Appendix A, the OPM shall not have responsibility for the design or the construction of the project. Such responsibilities shall remain with the designer, capital D, and the general contractor. So I'm still confused, because I get it, that we need a designer. I don't know what, you said the designer and the OPM would be one and the same?
No.
But then who's the designer?
The OPM will help you procure the designer.
That's what I asked earlier, and then you guys said, no, it will be an architect.
Well,
The
that,
OPM will be an architect so that you feel comfortable with the design that's procured.
Yeah.
It'll be double architecting.
Is that really advantageous? Why wouldn't we interview architects and find people who can design things we want?
I think we need an OPM with a skill set that knows what to look for and that understands codes and that can oversee whoever
But-
gets selected.
So we would
In a
hire
way that,
architects who
like-
don't understand codes?
No, we would hire an OPM who has the skill set of
I
an
know, but
architect
doesn't
to understand.
Doesn't the architect come with that code knowledge? Isn't that part of what you're paying for?
Absolutely, but this is something that Ryan and I can't necessarily oversee because we don't have that exact skill set.
No, but I guess I'm still kind of not understanding.
So we did procure designers previously,
Yeah.
and the designer selection committee did bring an architect. And although the architect was very qualified, the board did not have a lot of confidence that the design was the right fit for Carlisle.
So they shouldn't have picked that designer, it sounds like.
Well, but they did because they didn't know how to pick the right
I
designer.
know, but it's, okay, I mean, I think it's gonna go that we're gonna approve it, but it sounds to me like we don't have confidence in our own ability to pick an architect who
That's right.
understands the town. So we're gonna assign it to somebody else who may also not understand it, like, then we're even one step removed.
No,
What if they
no.
don't understand?
Well, that's the point of finding the right OPM.
But if you can find the right OPM, you ought to be able to find the right designer. Put that effort into
Well,
finding the right designer.
You know what, David, we already made this decision.
All
We
right.
made this decision to do this. Let's
Then
not
why-
relitigate this.
Let's
Let's,
just, okay, then let's just pass it. It's okay. I don't care.
well,
It just doesn't make a bunch of sense.
We're hoping that, to be candid, when this OPM says it's gonna be X dollars, that you believe the designer, or that if you need 7,000 square feet for X program, you believe, because.
But why would we believe the OPM more than we believe the designer? What special magic does the OPM walk in with that a good designer would not have?
So you're hiring, the OPM is essentially an employee of the town. So they have a vested interest in protecting the town. The designer should be, but they're more likely to protect their
All right,
design.
sorry,
If I thought we could do this without the OPM, it's just, we haven't been able to
I haven't been able, right?
build consensus through
So
two or
let's
three
get back
committees now.
down, okay, let's move past, we've agreed to an OPM. Now the question is, who should have oversight?
Yeah.
We don't yet have a committee, there's no committee to do that vetting, right? So we would agree to this, and then we would form a committee, and then we would RFP it, how would that work?
I would like to be prescriptive, and I would love to hear Julie's opinion, but I think you should hire the
I
OPM,
think so too.
get through pre-design, and then appoint a building committee. Because I think the building committee will do the work, they'll bring it back to you, and you're gonna relitigate it. So I
Yeah.
think this
So
person's.
you think we have enough expertise to evaluate the OPM?
We need to, yes, we do. Not only do we have the expertise, but this OPM is going to be our creature, so to speak.
Right.
And so we need to really love this
Okay?
person so that we
Have confidence.
have confidence in them.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it has to be us.
Okay.
Travis or Scott?
I agree completely. I think that this is a good path forward because it's been challenging because there are a lot of different interests that need to be represented. And I think if we have a person who's working for the select board and I think the key here is to be clear on what goals we want to achieve with this fire station project and
Yeah.
what budget we want to have.
have.
And if we are clear on both of those items, we can hire this person to effectively match those up and give us an honest opinion of saying, if you're gonna, have all these things, it's gonna cost X. And if you want to cut back on a few of these things, we can bring it in at Y. We have a better handle on making those decisions. And I think if we can get a person who does that, that'll be really effective to move this forward.
But they would be able to, I agree with that, but like, they would be able to give us that ballpark budget before there's a design. Like, if we go back with this list of needs and Chief Soros is saying, oh, I need to store all my trucks inside, or I need a training room, or I need this, or I need that, and we're saying, well, gee, do you really? Like, would that OPM be able to give us the menu of things? And, well, I don't, what I hear so far in what we've done is Brian came in with napkin designs and wish lists, and we've had no real, like, prioritization of, like, do all the trucks need to be inside?
But
Does
that's
the-
where.
That's what the OPM's going to help us do.
Yeah,
Okay.
because,
So, but what Travis is saying is, then, well, let me ask it. If he helps us decide, then before he goes to design, he's able to say based on, I say he, but I'm using generically, they are able to say based on their experience that this size garage will cost roughly X.
Ballpark.
and
Yes.
This size garage will cost
Yes,
Y.
exactly. So, for instance, earlier tonight, you asked Ryan, what do you think the ballpark of, what
Yeah.
was it, Highland Building, you know? Ryan doesn't have that. But
Well, I
if you
thought,
had an
when I asked him, I was trying to put his expertise in the car, but I thought.
I understand.
He's done that analysis, and he may remember what that number was, but
well,
it's
okay,
irrelevant.
but
I
the thing
think
is that this OPM would have that.
Okay, all right, let's try it. I think we're still gonna have a bit of a muddle,
Yeah.
but that's okay. We got it, we can't have as much of a
Scott.
muddle as we have now.
Scott has his hand up.
Yeah, Scott?
I haven't been part of the fire station discussion or process. I just want to ask Ryan and Julie, what's your recommendation? And is this, if your recommendation is to proceed in this way, is this a standard approach? I think you had mentioned other projects use this approach. Is what we're talking about doing here fairly common practice and best practice?
This is the hot potato.
Yeah, I do think it's done both ways. I think this is a confidence issue. So I think the select board needs to feel confident that they're making the right decision. It's a 20, 30-year decision. It's an expensive decision, and I think it impacts all the other capital decisions. So what I've seen is a lot of, I don't want to use an overly negative term, but a lot of concentration on the smaller part of the project and not the bigger part of the project. I think you need to bring in an expert that can help you feel confident that all the decisions are being made correctly. So I think this is what's needed to get this project either going or to not happen, or to make a decision on it.
All right.
So are we, is there a motion we're going to adopt tonight on this, that
I
we're,
think it's just general advice, right?
is it general advice?
So the things we would need in order to finalize this are to make sure that your goals for the project are correct, that we have some idea of the budget of the project.
Where is all that?
Well, the goals are on page 2 of 20
Right at the beginning
of the thing.
It's page 37 in our packet.
Okay.
And those were.
To expand the facility capacity,
Oh, I see, all right.
provide for property health and safety. I think
Yeah, these
Those
are
are-
the ones we've gone over before.
we've gone over, I think that's just
Not be much new here.
No.
right.
So this is.
You see it
the-
under item 3, that's,
And it,
if you go down to number 3.
Okay. How about, how much budget for this little piece, and where is that budget coming from?
the budget, what do you mean?
So I can explain what I think.
Yeah,
So we're gonna put it out to bid, or we'll negotiate with whoever's selected, because that's the way design works, to partition the project off. So we'll have a cost for pre-design. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that'll be something that you will consider under ARPA, because it's been discussed before.
okay. That's my
If-
question.
Yes,
Then we'll say, what would the rest of the project be cost, and we'll only authorize it.
No, I mean, it's the front end, so we can move quickly on that. We get the people, we have ARPA, we gotta commit the ARPA anyway pretty
Yes.
soon, so boom, 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 and off we go.
As much ARPA as we can use to get to
And
wherever.
if in phase A, we begin to lose confidence in this this OPM, we don't have to progress through. We're not obligated beyond what we commit, right?
Yes, correct.
yeah, okay.
All right.
And,
Great.
but for the police department, are we also going to use ARPA funds?
It's
Are
already
the-
paid for.
It's already paid
It's in
for,
the
okay.
budget.
It's in the vote at town meeting. We can use that.
Okay,
funding.
great, okay, got it.
Yeah, this was our.
So you just need a direction from us to go ahead, use ARPA funds and pursue the process of
Yeah,
hiring.
we're not gonna commit the
So
ARPA.
we don't need the
funds
funding yet. What we need is
direct to ARPA.
goals, and then
And the-
the evaluation criteria is pretty standard. I don't
Yeah.
think we need to
I think-
deviate.
I don't think we have to.
And then we've heard you do not want to select a building committee, and that all of this, you will be the design selection committee, so all of it will run through
We
you.
don't wanna decide a building committee yet.
Yet. We might be we might or might not be the design selection committee, depending upon.
For the OPM. There's a.
No,
We do, we
don't
want to be
wanna
for the,
be involved
we
in-
want to be, we want to be involved with the OPM, but not necessarily.
We wanna hire the OPM.
No, we're delegating that, though, to
Well,
Ryan.
Well,
Yes.
You'll present more than one choice, I guess.
No,
or-
what we just discussed was that.
I'm not
we-
talking police. Police is done, right?
For fire,
For
you're gonna
fire.
get a short list.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
Right.
Well, you're gonna get all of it, and
Yeah.
then you're gonna decide who you want to interview. It'll be a very
We're-
public process, but
It's
it's
our hire,
It's our
so-
hire.
It's our hire.
okay,
Police is
Got
your
it.
hire, and
Police is your hire.
All right.
This one is
that's
our
clear.
hire.
That's clear.
and the
Yeah.
goals seem fine. And
The goals seem
processes.
fine, certainly
with
the
the rest.
criteria. And the last thing that we need to say, are we comfortable with the 5 to, telling them upfront?
5 to 10 million.
5 to
is what it
10.
says.
I mean, that's like.
Well, remember, that was that
Sure.
whole conversation we
Yes.
had, and we
I
couldn't.
think we tell them that,
Yeah.
and they're like, they laugh at us, and then we go back and we have to look at it again, right? I mean, sure.
Okay, all right, well, I just wanted to,
After
we have
they're
2
done
more
laughing,
members.
we'll
We
take
gotta
another
remember.
look at it.
Okay, I think it's all good, and I think
Yeah.
we should pull the
You did a
trigger.
nice job, Julie.
Pull the trigger, let's go.
Did you have anything you wanted to add, Julie?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think those were the questions. So just leave it as budget 5 to 10 million, that range?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, is it possible, Ryan, that, let's say you put it out to bid and you put all that stuff in, and the responses you get back are, we can't do this in the 5 to 10 million? I mean, that may be data, right? They may come back just from what you've written and say, we don't think the lower end of that range is practical.
When you interview them, you can ask that, and they'll probably answer you, and then you can decide whether or not you agree.
Okay, so they won't no bid just on the basis of that ballpark.
You won't get bids from people that want to do a $25 million project.
Right, which is okay, because we don't want that.
But you might get people that are like, hey, I want to do
It's
your
really-
project, but you're being unreasonable.
It's 10 to 15, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
but this is part of the information we're
No, I
trying to
know,
elicit.
that's the information we need, because
Yeah.
the question was asked, is
Yeah.
5 to 10 a good number? It's like me asking Ryan, is 1 to 2 million a good
Yeah.
number? I don't know.
Exactly.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
all right. got
All
it.
right.
So, you need anything else from us about that? You have your marching orders.
Vote on this?
No, you
No.
just put it out to bid.
Great.
Yep, put it out to bid.
So I need to figure out how to turn you into a design selection committee, but that's my problem.
Us?
Okay.
Well, yeah, okay.
I don't want to shuffle through like 20 applications here in a public meeting. That would
No.
take 14 days, so.
No.
But I'll figure it out.
Well, can
Okay.
we empower you to make the short list?
I'm happy to
That's what
come
I
and
think
read
so.
them with
I
you.
think so.
Okay. I heard a volunteer that's gonna help you.
All right. Anything more from Scott or Travis?
No, I think it's good.
Okay.
Moving forward.
All right.
Yay.
Excellent.
So this,
Um,
I'm sorry, on page 7 of 20, the calendar will have to be
Yes.
Yeah, right,
refigured, right?
right.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Good. Well, thank you,
All right,
Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank
Sorry to
you.
make you wait.
All righty. We are on to the TA report.
Yeah.
All right. Just reminding everyone that, and invite your friends, but volunteer training on August 6th. So this will focus on town structure, ethics, budgeting, managing public comments, the appointment process, finances, et cetera. So it's really a boot camp for new volunteers and specifically chairs who might want to know how to
So,
onboard new.
Last year, we had a bunch of people. Are we gonna try to encourage people to come back?
Yes, but it's targeting new volunteers and then anyone who wants.
And who's gonna be in charge of the invites? Aubrey and you?
We've been inviting
They've
people.
been inviting.
Like, my committee, like, I don't have to worry about it. You guys are extending invitations?
Yes,
Okay.
or through the chairs, so maybe I'll have to check
You
on
have to let
that.
me know. Okay. Yeah,
Oh, the
master plan, the town meetings.
town meeting thing.
We're
Okay.
dropping like flies out of that, but.
Once town meeting's over. Okay,
Well, they just, it's too late.
Okay.
so we've been conducting interviews for DPW driver, labor dispatcher, and public health nurse. We should have some employees to bring you soon. And we're still collecting resumes for the electrical and facilities technician, planning, zoning, and land use assistant, and now the COHS social services coordinator.
Can I just ask one question? Was there any discussion around, sharing,
Yeah. that's my
shared
question.
services in the public health nurse and/or dispatcher positions?
And/or social services.
Dispatcher, we couldn't
And/or
share.
Social services, yeah.
So dispatcher, we can't share because it's union, so
Ah.
there would have to be a impact bargaining to that. Public health nurse is under the purview of the Board of Health, not under me.
And,
The other positions
And the
have
liaison, I might add.
been considered for planning.
okay,
Or shared services.
yes.
Are you reaching
okay.
out to some towns on that?
I am, yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right, Chapter 90, we have received all of our 2024 allotments. So this funding will support the road program as presented to you, the Westford Street culvert, and we are working with, we brought our engineers out to a couple of the roads without a commitment yet, but to see what it would cost to fix some problems. So if you remember, I know the name of the road's escaping me, but the one that had the top coat and then
Oh, yeah,
Didn't get
Pheasant.
the final.
Pheasant Hill Lane.
Pheasant Hill Lane.
Hill
So
Lane.
you go out to Pheasant Hill Lane and you, of course, you realize why it was done the way it was done forever. So there's a couple spots that are gonna require some significant design in order to solve drainage problems. And then we have to decide whether or not the drainage is gonna cause another problem. So that's why we brought the engineers. So I don't wanna just add a top coat or recommend to you that you add a top coat without understanding second and third order effects.
Okay.
And we have a couple of those situations. But we're trying to meet with residents. Jim is doing a great job just triaging and going through some of the different requirements. So we're hoping that the community feels like we're being responsive while communicating that we only have so many resources. All right, Greeno Barn deconstruction. So they were out there today. They put a new lock on, and we're starting to flag some of the perimeter. The project will begin in earnest next week, the 29th. After the various permitting boards and land use boards do their thing, especially Conscom. So a lot of people helped with this. We do expect select demo to be done by the end of August. So they are keeping to their timeline. They've been very communicative, and I think we have a good team in place. For procurement and project updates, the road repair program, we're fully contracted with Newport Construction, and they'll be paving between August 12th and August 30th. Jim is working with Aubrey to make sure we're communicating this to residents. And in addition, the Westford Street temporary culvert replacement, we have a low bidder today. We'll be reaching out to that finalized today. We're gonna be ready to go for that as well. And that should be in the next 60 days. So there's gonna be a lot of road work going on at once. So we gotta communicate that. There will be a temporary closure of Westford Street. So people will need to take that into consideration, and we need to communicate that.
Any idea how long?
At least a week.
So you're gonna use the town website and stuff to get alternate routes in? Back to Greeno, I think I mentioned to you or Julie or somebody that, based on my own interaction with the people who live on the street in Billerica, even though I know it's the purview of the deconstruction company to do it, I recommend that we make sure that we reach out to those neighbors just to give them that same courtesy, because they were pretty annoyed when we moved all those cars in the day we went, and so I perceive that they'll be, I don't know.
Yeah, we're doing as much notification as we can,
Okay,
knowing that it's not gonna be enough, but we're gonna try.
okay, well, as long as we're communicating, yeah.
There was a mailing that went out to 95 properties that are in that neighborhood where the trucks are gonna come through Billerica. Actually, we sent it
Okay.
from the town of Carlisle.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
And the contractor's been communicating with people who've had specific concerns, so I feel like, again, I don't think it's gonna go swimmingly, but we have been responsive and will continue to be.
Okay.
Corey Auditorium,
Yay.
Yay.
everyone from town council all the way down is thrilled. We just need to get this done. The dog park, so we're probably at either The Empire Strikes Back or A New Hope of the dog park sequels. However, we've received all the funding, the checks are in the mail, and the $44,000 gap has been closed. So the FinCom did a 22 and change reserve fund transfer, and the Recreation Department is using some of their maintenance funds and anticipating not using them this year in order to close that gap. My question to the select board is, that puts a lot of stress on the FY24 budget. It's not a today problem, but do you want to soften that stress by using ARPA, or would you rather reserve ARPA because of its flexibility? So either we'll be waiting for the end of the year and maybe covering gaps with transfers in the budget, which historically we've been okay doing, so I don't feel like alarming you. But if we use 20,000 now, it would take a lot of pressure off the budget.
Yeah, but then we have to see that full, I mean, Scott was saying there's some more clawbacks and there's more projects and there's money.
Yes.
So then we have to kind of see that picture to make that decision.
We can do that, yep, so we can present it.
This is 25 budget gap, right?
is the FY '25 budget gap.
Okay.
But it is closed, the project's contracted, we're gonna move on. It's just where we wanna take the risk in the budget.
Yeah, and it's-
I think we should wait and see how some of these other things fall and what the OPM for the fire station is gonna cost before we commit
Yeah.
the additional.
I agree with
If
you.
it looks like we have enough, we call back more and we have 20,000 and we should know more in the next 30, 60 days, we should have the answers to those, then we can make that decision, but not tonight.
yeah,
Right.
I agree, and it's not urgent that we make that decision tonight,
Right.
because we have some time to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, let's
Makes
just see the
sense
whole
to me.
picture, and then if we, again, if the funds are available, it's honestly a good use of ARPA funds.
Yeah.
It supports community, it
Yeah.
supports
Yeah.
outdoor activities, but let's just get the full picture.
Yeah.
All right, so we won't move that motion tonight.
All right, so resident Sandy Nash has donated $1,000 for pickleball equipment. The select board is, even though this goes to the rec commission, is required to accept this, if you want to do that motion now.
I make a motion that we accept the $1,000 from Sandy Nash for the pickleball equipment.
And you're accepting it for the town and the Recreation Commission.
Accepting it for the town and the recreation.
I second it with gratitude to Sandy Nash.
Any discussion? All right, the roll call vote. Arnold, aye.
Modell, aye.
Reed, aye.
Snell, aye.
Triola, aye.
Yes, thank you very much, Sandy.
Yes.
All right, the Rotary will be adorned with this sign that you see here on the screen from August 24th to September 7th, advertising the Carlisle Congregational Church's block party,
Okay.
notifying the board. It's happening rain or shine, it's a very committed block party. Employee disclosure, so Tom McConnon, who was a full-time employee and is now part-time, serves both as a DPW driver and a COHS driver. His dual role requires an annual disclosure, so because you have two financial interests in the town, you have to disclose that. There is no risk, no problem with it, it's just required by state law. So recommending the select board approve this and authorize one of you to sign it.
Oh,
Vice Chair,
yes.
Yeah, this
This will be the
seems
vice
very
chair.
straightforward to me. Does anybody have any questions about this?
Nope.
Okay.
So I move,
Do you want it signed tonight?
I do. yeah.
Okay. You okay, Travis, if I go ahead and sign it?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
I move to approve the municipal employee disclosure form for Thomas McConnon as presented in the town administrator's report, and further to authorize the select board vice chair to sign the disclosure.
Seeing as she's already doing so, I second it.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Roll call
Let's do a
vote.
roll call vote. Arnold, aye.
Modell, aye.
Reed, aye.
Snell, aye.
Triola, aye.
Okay.
Great. That's unanimous. Excellent. All righty. What else, Mr. Town Administrator?
All right, so one of my goals this year was to receive ICMA certifications. That is attending the ICMA, or the International City County Management Association's conference. This can be an expense, so I was lucky enough to secure a triple MA scholarship, which essentially reduces the cost down to half of a year's membership. And it does cover $1,000 in expenses. So I will be going to that conference, but was able to defer some of the costs.
Congratulations, and
Great.
thank you for doing this, because I'm sure you will come back. These things are always, invigorating very often.
I mean, this is in here mostly because of, it was one of my goals that you had me do, so that's why it's in here. All right, discussion points, town hall hours, still hanging out there as a possible discussion point. And then ARPA closeout, as you heard, Scott, who is the ARPA czar in town, is going to bring a full report. And I do think that we need a plan by the end of the summer to execute ARPA. So the main risk, so people understand, is they need to be obligated, which means you have to have an actual contract by December 31st. And if you do contract, but don't spend it, then that money does not return to the town.
Right.
It goes, so you could envision that we have a contract with the OPM, but then we decide not to use the OPM.
Right, but if we, for example, if we did the budget gap thing, that's like instantaneous, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's instantaneous, yes. So that's why I'm saying that I think we could wait on that one.
So can we roll back to town hall hours? Are we on summer hours now?
We do not do summer hours.
We didn't do it this year? Okay, so same old hours this year. So this note is really for standard, like, we haven't standardized the hours?
No.
Okay.
Aubrey's
We're
working
going
on
to
a
potentially have it
proposal.
as an agenda item to discuss at an upcoming meeting.
All right, I'm all for that.
All right, and then lastly, but most importantly, in my opinion, I want to recognize some staff. So Al, Miriam, and Gretchen for organizing the employee summer barbecue, and for many of you for coming to that event. Went by pretty quick, but it was nice to gather. Al cooked a delicious meal, was not happy with me adding squash to his grill. He's very particular about what goes on his grill. And Miriam saved a lot of money for the town by combining the COHS barbecue with the town hall barbecue in order to save some funding. So that's good, and staff's always conscious of funding. I think that's important for the community to know. Steve Bastick returned during this barbecue. We did that on purpose so he'd have a chance to say goodbye to the town. He's doing really well. Looks like he has some job prospects lined up. He really built up the town side of the maintenance department, saved the town a lot of money by keeping things in-house, and allowed us to have the conversation we had earlier with the school about creating a facilities department. So I want to wish him luck and thank him for all he did for the town. And then Gretchen completed the Inspector General offers one person to receive MCPPO certification, so we sent Gretchen to that school. We didn't know that she would be taking on the town clerk duties at the same time, and also, but she was able to still finish that work. It was a lot of work. It's a very difficult program. And we now have 3 MCPPO trained people in town, myself, Aubrey, and Gretchen. So that'll be a good add to the town, and it was free. Some dates, I am out of state I'm just in New Hampshire for vacation. We'll still be communicating, and I will be back August 6th to do the volunteer training, and I'll be in the office that day.
Can I interrupt as a follow-up to that? I had sent out an email based on our goals of seeing various facilities throughout the year, and initially thought that with the school and the Highland building was a good place to start. I did get the scheduling emails back from you all, and it seemed like August 6th was the best. However, looks like we're going to hold off on the school potentially until fall or later in the year, and instead, I think, focus on the Bog House, because as an upcoming agenda item, we're going to be discussing the Bog House, and I think it would be helpful for everyone to meet out there on August 6th to not only see that, but also the entire kind of Cranberry Bog and how that operates. So if that's amenable to everyone on August 6th, I was thinking we could do either 8 or 8:30 a.m. I don't know if there's a preference, or Ryan, if your availability at 8.
I'll be there.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
So 8, are we going with 8?
Yeah, let's go with 8. I think that, and I would plan for an hour, but I think that this will be just an on-site meeting. I think we do have to post it as a meeting for the select board, and obviously anyone who wants to join, I guess, can attend this site visit unless there are requirements, Ryan.
There are not.
Will the tenant space be available for us to look at by
Should
then?
be,
Okay,
but I'm not sure.
because it would be really nice to be able to see that part, have access to that part.
Do you want me and or the design professionals working on the feasibility study to be there? I mean, I'll be there, it's no problem. But do you want me to coordinate?
That'd be great.
I think it'd be helpful.
It would be great if you help coordinate and make sure that the interested parties are there.
Great.
All right, and we'll meet at the Bog House at 8.
Correct.
Not here. Okay, great.
Okay, got it.
All right, I have, I'm sorry, I have one more motion
Oh,
for
right.
you. This one is about the early in-person voting hours, which does need to be voted tonight. However, the reason why it's not a regular agenda item or discussed is because Jimmy, our temporary town clerk, has basically said that you can come when the town hall's open for in-person voting hours, except adding the Saturday, which is required by law. So if you look up here, these are the early voting hours. It is during regular business hours.
Good,
You'll be able to vote right in the town clerk's office. So,
nice.
not to be presumptive, but.
So he'll be here for those, because he's not here every day.
Well, he doesn't work every
He's here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Or, I mean,
Somebody will be
is
involved.
Alana, is she empowered to be that?
Yeah, and volunteers as well.
Okay.
So you do have to vote to accept these hours as presented for early voting in person
Okay.
for the 2024 state primary.
Okay.
Someone make that motion, please.
Where is it?
Here, I get it.
I don't see it in
Oh, because,
the
well,
TM, it's not in the TM motion.
you're right. Okay, vote to approve the election, early voting election hours as presented in the memo from James Mullen
On July 19th.
on July 19th.
For the 2024, did you already say that?
Well, I said, well, for the 2024 state primary election.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call vote. Arnold, aye.
Model I.
Reed, aye.
Snell, aye.
Triola, aye.
All right, my last bit, and I'll stop talking, is the agenda that has been tentatively discussed. I'm just looking for any select board input. So you will have the final climate leader vote. It's been discussed a couple times. Perhaps a presentation about the Bog House. You'll have the treasurer collector here to talk about online donations and tax bill frequency, and then your first run at the TA bylaw.
I would like us, maybe either this one or the next one, to invite possibly the MBTA Communities Subcommittee to come and give us a presentation so that we're connected all along the way with updates from that committee, rather than to wait for them to do all the work and then kind of pick at the, once it's presented, then to be asking questions and picking at the edges. I really think this is a big enough
Sure.
initiative that we need to be really plugged in
Okay.
early, so I think,
What date was that meeting, sorry?
well, I don't know, we'd have to check. I
Well, we can-
think Addie
Travis
would
and
have to give the,
Brian and I can figure that out.
Yeah.
What date was that one, the agenda you were showing, just a,
Well,
That's
August
August
13th.
okay.
And you're on, the Bog House presentation is also
Yeah,
on this
that's why I
agenda.
was wondering, and also I want to make sure that the planning board has the most updated information first.
Uh-huh,
So we can do that on the 12th.
okay.
And
okay,
then-
that would be good.
Yeah, so-
And then, but we also, I think it'd be important for Addie to be the one to
Yeah,
make the
of
presentation, so
course.
we would have to also check to see if
Yeah.
she's available.
Yep.
I mean, there's room in this agenda. You have half an hour for climate leader vote. We kind of covered it.
Hopefully we
I
are,
think at 10 minutes, right? I think there's room to put this in, but are you saying you would be ready or you would not be ready?
I just have to check with the chair of the subcommittee, but I mean, that date seems okay to me.
Because, I mean, it's a shorter meeting, which is great, but again, there's half an hour for a climate leader vote, which I think is a 10-minute thing. So,
Well, why don't we let,
you guys should sort it out, but
Yeah.
all I'm saying is,
We
it
should be
appears
able
that
to
there's
do it.
room in that meeting.
Right.
Because things are gonna get really busy really fast. We've got the
Yeah.
run
Yeah.
up to fall town meeting, and then we're into budget season.
Budget
I mean, we
season,
should take
right.
advantage of little gaps in the summer schedule to get some of these.
and
things.
I'm
Right.
not looking at it anymore, but do we also have, sorry, I missed it, if I missed it, do we have the TA bylaw on that one?
Yeah, on
on the
Oh, it is on that
13th.
one, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And I don't know that we need to do it at this next meeting, but we should put the Center Park agreement on,
Yeah, it's gotta be back
for
up.
maybe the end of August. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, end of August.
Yep,
All right, that's my report.
great.
Great.
Temporary interim Madam Chair.
And,
She's raising the bar, Travis. She got done pretty early.
She's doing a
dude.
great job.
Oh, boy,
I like
yeah.
I don't know, we're gonna, might
it. I'll
have
go
to,
away more often.
And anybody have a liaison report?
no, I've attended a couple of my new assignments, so it seems to be going well.
All right, good.
And you went
I
to
went
the-
to the COAHS on Friday, yep,
Yeah.
and it had a nice
That-
chat.
That is one change that we should, that I was planning to be the COAHS representative, but I think based on the timing and the commitments I have, I suggested to Barney that maybe she has some availability and she thought that that would work. So as long as there's no objections with the board, Barney will handle that.
Okay.
And we did, I took the celebrations thing from Scott, right? Is that, we talked about it. I haven't reached out yet to Scott Evans, but Am I the celebrations liaison now?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't
Just
have it in
checking.
front of me, so, but I think that's right.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
All righty, then if there are no liaison reports, is there anyone that is still remaining here that would like to offer community input?
And we didn't have any minutes for some reason. We didn't have minutes last time either.
We're gonna get 3 next time.
Okay, all right, all right.
CPO thing is why you didn't get.
Yeah, okay,
Right,
all right.
right,
I get
all
it,
right.
I
Well,
get it.
Right, seeing none, I'd call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Arnold, aye.
Modell, aye.
Reed, aye.
Snell, aye.
Viola, aye.
Excellent, thank you all very much, at 9:30 PM.
Oh,
The
my gosh,
meeting is
Barney, you're doing
adjourned.
great. Put me to shame.